So when you hit the wrong button, and it just fucking laughs at you, that is when you know you're off to a great start.
That's the ultimate.
Oh, okay.
This is the MLW Radio Network.
Welcome, everybody, to the Mind of the Meanie, your weekly peek into the world according to former WWE and ECW wrestler, the Blue Meanie. We'll cover wrestling, music, movies, sports, and lots of useless knowledge, all contained in the Mind of the Meanie. I'm Josh Shernoff, and he is the Blue Meanie. Meanie, what is up, man?
Hey, a special late night edition of the Blue Meanie podcast for those watching along on the Patreon. Thank you for joining us. And if you're listening on Monday, you have no clue what we're talking about, which is fine. Normally we record on Saturday morning, but technically we both have something going on Saturday that's going to take up our time. So we decided to hop in on a Thursday, which works best for both of us, and do the podcast. So we're doing this a couple days ahead of when we usually do. What's weird is I like doing the podcast a little bit earlier, just because like my memories are fresh, but like I'm worn out from the day. So
It's gonna be one of those today.
No, it won't be one of those. But yeah, normally I like doing it early. Like if I could roll out of bed and just turn on the mic and just record my first thoughts of the day, that would be high comedy. But like I've had a whole full day ahead of me, and I think this will still be fun. This will still be fun. Yeah.
Oh, dude, we're gonna have a good time.
We're gonna have a grand old fucking time.
Yeah, this is episode 24. Man, how do we get
Weird.
24? So we are on the verge of a in your house beware of dog type situation, because we are Meanie and I are both in. Meanie is right in the heart of Philadelphia, and I'm Philadelphia adjacent, but close enough that I tell people I'm from Philadelphia. And we have a tornado watch going on. So if a tornado blows through, and we one or both of us lose power, fuck us, I guess. I don't
pretty much.
I don't know, because like Meanie had said, our schedules are pretty tight for this for the next few days. So, man, I hope that doesn't happen. Otherwise, this is what you're getting. It's so
weird, like for this area to get tornado warnings.
Yeah,
it's like you always hear about like Oklahoma or stuff like that,
it's so weird. It's so unsettling, much like everything else in 2020. But like, so I said to my wife, I'm like, I used to always be like, oh, we have a tornado warning. Like, okay, that's not like really us. And then there's the, I don't know if it was like the daycare or something by Doylestown Hospital, which is not, there's maybe like 15, 20 minutes from where I live. And they just straight up ripped the roof off of that a few weeks back. We had some sort of tornado warning, and I'm like, holy crap. Like that's 20 minutes driving is nothing for like a storm. Like that can shift that direction in a heartbeat. So that's a little nerve wracking. Also, we just lost some of our tree.
That's right.
From like a flash storm of like wind a couple days ago, and half a tree came down in our backyard. So yeah, man, just hoping for the best.
It's like, and those things just come right out of the sky. They're just like, boom, come down. Yeah. And, I watched enough of those videos, and it's like, holy shit.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, Wizard. It's Twister. I'm a Van Halen fan. They did the soundtrack. So I was trying to cue that music up, but I don't think anybody would have got the reference. Nah. But yeah, man, it's like, they always hit like wide open spots too. Twisters. It's like, not that I'm wishing this, but like it'd be weird if like it happened just like right in Center City, Philadelphia, with all those skyscrapers and shit.
Yeah, I mean,
Has that like ever like a major city just like a tornado just fuck your city?
Now I'm gonna lay down some hardcore pontification right now because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I wonder if the buildings create some sort. You know how like you can walk between tall buildings and you'll get like a wind tunnel in there or something. I wonder if that concept does anything. So like a big city with skyscrapers isn't going to get hit because something in the air, like, you know what I mean? Like the storm isn't going to go in that direction. Right. Like I said,
And you said you don't smoke weed. That was just a weed fucking rant right there.
I got a text.
I got a text too. You tell me yours first.
Mine,
well, not a text, but a DM.
I got a text today at 12:27 p.m. I was listening from my mom.
Oh. Mama Shernoff.
Yeah, letting me know that, I wasn't. It wasn't that big of a surprise. But
my boy Donnie, he does IT work, and he sent me a thing that says, he sent me a message. He made me laugh out loud at work again. Because we were talking about weed, and you said, I never really, smoked weed or something like that. But I was walking down the boardwalk with my mom, and I just went smoking a blunt. And he said that just simple smoking a blunt made him bust out laughing at work. Like in this workplace where everybody's just typing in computers, and then he's like, "Whoa!" Just laughing. So I was like, "Oh, sorry," because he listens when he was at work.
That's amazing.
Shout out to Donnie.
Real quick, I want to give a shout out. James Sorensen, who is a Pod Squad Elite member, celebrating a birthday today and is spending his birthday listening to us.
I'm sorry.
I've never heard of a more flattering and depressing thing than that. But hey, dude, we're locked in. What else are you gonna do for your birthday?
Nah.
You're not having a big party. No, man, we're so happy to have you here. That you're choosing to spend your time with us. So happy birthday. I can't remember. Were you one of the people that we found out was born in like the late 90s, like early 2000s or something, where Meanie and I were like miserable about that?
You were miserable. I was uncontrollable.
Unconsolable. Yeah.
Unconsolable.
Uncontrollably unconsolable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just ran to the fridge and ate a whole tub of fucking ice cream, just wallowing away in my fucking misery.
Oh, I was going to say, the whole tub of ice cream was before we started the show. And then that's just quarantine habits.
Yeah. Who am I pretending?
Dude, the other day...
I'm just passing the heat.
The other day, I'm sitting there, smoking a blunt, walking down the boardwalk with my mom.
Sorry, Donnie.
Yeah. So, sorry, Mom. Who I love you.
Why didn't you just?
You don't have to listen to the show. What are you doing?
Why didn't you just say to your mom? Well, look, I've been to enough concerts. I know what it smells like.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at this point. No. So the other day, I'm sitting there and I'm having some dessert, watching some TV, having like a I don't know a ice cream sandwich or something.
I was gonna say an aneurysm.
No, that's happening right now. And my wife's just like eyeing it up, and I thought I'd done a really good job of hiding the fact that I had also had an ice cream bar like 20 minutes earlier. I was just like, I give up. I'm hungry because I started trying to eat a little healthier. And then it just screwed me. I started eating healthier, and then at night I was so hungry, and I don't know. James wants to know any light seltzer you recommend, and he was born in '97. Yeah, you are one of those people.
Light seltzer. I have to apologize because I pre-seltzered the show. I couldn't wait.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I've got a mango lime.
I have a grapefruit.
Oh. How's the grapefruit one? Because grapefruit...
Not bad. Grapefruit
ruins... If you put grapefruit in like a no. Seriously, this is something I've gone off on in the past. Grapefruit ruins everything when mixed with it. You cannot enjoy a fruit medley with grapefruit because it becomes grapefruit and then grapefruit flavored everything else.
It's true.
Oh,
I can't.
oh,
Go Birds.
go Birds! Nice acoustics in this unfinished basement.
So, yeah, we got a new flavor. We got Tracy.
Oh, wait a
says
minute.
it's-
Wait a minute. Hold on. Already, I wasn't
you hit
ready
the music.
for it.
Mind of the meanie, Mrs. Meanie round and Tracy Roots got something to say. Hey, hey, hey.
Oh, it's over there.
What should I say? I wasn't ready for it. I'm never ready for it. Every time she
Never
says
ready.
something, I'm just like, oh no, hold on.
You're like a dead batter. You're never ready.
I got this.
Which one are you looking for?
Looking for the ginger peach one.
Oh, I don't know where it is. Oh, it's in the kitchen. This is the delayed run-in. This is at the Silver Dome. She's doing a run-in from with the length of the run-in.
She's no Charles Robinson at the
No.
WrestleMania 20. Was it WrestleMania 24? Yeah, because I was there. I saw that live. That man ran down that aisle.
Okay, here we go.
Here, just hold that.
Oh, she's going to do a seltzer rant.
Yeah, okay. So I have two here, okay?
All right, let's do it. Ooh, nice shirt, by the way.
Oh, I dyed it myself.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so these are delicious. These are bowl and basket. This is a black cherry, sparkling water.
can you show it to your left a little bit?
Which way?
So
This-
we're-
there
we are.
it is.
Where the red light is.
Whoop.
Ooh,
Okay, so Bowl and
and
Basket
Basket.
is a ShopRite brand.
Okay.
These are really good. It's kind of like it reminds me of like a Tootsie Pop. So this one, Good and Gather Ginger Peach Sparkling Water. This is from Target.
okay.
Fucking ring light. Damn it. Anyway, these suck. These taste like so I like hard seltzers. I like the adult seltzers.
Mm-hmm.
This tastes like an adult seltzer. That's not. It's gross.
Yeah, if you don't,
And I'm like a huge ginger peach mark. Give me ginger everything forever. No,
Really?
no good. Yeah, it's garbage.
all right. Well, you heard it here first, folks.
Don't drink this crap. Here, you want this one?
Hey,
He's
Mrs.
a garbage
Meanie,
disposal. He loves it.
Hey, hun, this sucks. You take it.
Mrs. Meanie, James Sorensen, it's his birthday today, and he says, Mrs. Meanie, run in on my birthday, day made. Just wanna let you know that.
Hold on a second. Wait, hold on. I got it. Hold on.
Hold on. She has an idea. Hold on.
All right. Hey, we're not going anywhere.
Like we have a choice.
Yeah.
But they're not. It's not our pod squad. They're our hostages. Oh, here we go. Oh.
Happy birthday. I can't sing the real one because it's copyright.
That's true. We'll get thrown
So-
off.
Happy birthday to you.
Yes. Where's our?
Oh,
there it is.
Well
Well done. Well done.
Love you. Good night.
Dinner and a show.
Man, how about that? James
Yeah.
Sorensen. Hey, if you're listening to this and you're not a member of the Patreon group,
Maybe we should do more shows at night. This is fun.
Because I'm usually asleep.
Yeah, Mrs. Meanie goes to bed at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and I get up at like 10.
Oh man.
And then she does her our normal run in right as she's rolling out of bed, gets out of bed, scratches her balls, and runs down here. And then just.
That's how she gets them ready for juggling.
Yeah. Oh, did you see the club in the photo?
I did, yeah.
She
Oh,
started
that's one of her
juggling
new.
clubs.
No, I didn't.
Well,
Here.
she hasn't officially.
Well-
She got them in the mail today.
Well, you guys, why don't you talk for 1 second? I've got a.
Hold on.
I'm just trying to connect with it. I'm carrying it around like a toddler. These are huge, and I'm gonna clobber myself with these. I'll
Man.
probably go upstairs and do it. The trick is you gotta practice over the bed so you don't have to bend over that far when you pick them up off the ground.
If you're just joining us, Mrs. Meanie is talking about her juggling.
Yeah, look at how big this is. I'm going to throw this up in the air and smash myself with it a whole bunch. It's going to be great.
You do you. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Can we use that quote for just out of context? Hey, I'm going to run over. I've got a dehumidifier going on in the basement that is just as loud as a son of a bitch. So I'm going to go turn it off.
Okay. I'll talk shit about it.
But because we're 24 episodes in and apparently people like this, I'm not cutting this out of the.
I think you should leave the false finish in too, but
What's that?
When you went to hit the show fucking credit and the fucking leave that the fuck in.
The opening?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like when you went to hit the fucking show theme and you hit the applause button by mistake.
Yes. I wasn't even a false finish. It was a false start.
False start.
Almost.
Yeah.
It was almost.
Hey,
almost
Jason
finished.
Peters with the false start over here.
All right. I will be right back.
Okay. So while he's away, for those who aren't familiar, Jason Peters is the offensive lineman for Philadelphia Eagles. Legendary. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, the bodyguard. But he jumps off sides so many times that we get called for false starts all the time. Love him. But, yeah, he's a false start machine. Traveling. And Mrs. Meanie yelled is traveling.
What?
Oh, I was explaining. I did the Philly. Hold on. I did the inside reference of, you said false start. I called you Jason Peters. I was like, well, there's some people who might not know who Jason Peters is. So I gave the Cliff Notes.
Oh, nice.
Because he's known. There's three things certain in life with the Philadelphia Eagles. Or no, there's three things certain in life. Death, taxes, and Jason Peters will jump off sides or a false start.
Oh, man. You getting ready? You getting ready for football? We talked about this last week.
Yeah.
It wasn't even last week. It was like a few days ago at this point.
Dude, I can't believe how long it's been. And it doesn't even, like I said, we said this before, it doesn't even feel like football. I mean, we're like a week away from football season by the time this airs. This airs on Monday, so that'll be game week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm always ready for football. I'm bummed the XFL got, COVIDed. But
I'm glad the XFL is coming back, though.
Oh, same here. I was
really
a fan.
sucked.
I went to the first game.
Yeah, that really sucked that it was not going to happen. And then, being bought by The Rock and his team, and now The Rock, talk about being COVIDed.
Yeah.
Jesus. I saw that, and I'm like, well, if The Rock can catch it, I'm screwed. Well, Rock's like, make sure you have your immune system. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to ever be in anywhere close to the shape you're in. So, The
Rock can catch it, but not like Blanche can catch it.
Oh, my.
So, no, seriously, I love Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne. Yeah, and when he made that announcement, it was like, it was one thing, like when this whole thing first started happening, and then, like, they said Tom Hanks had it, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, shit. Now the fucking Rock had it.
Yeah.
And look at The Rock and how healthy he is and health freak and all that stuff. So
very
he gets it.
Very important. The way what he was talking about was how they let people that they really trust into their home. Those people don't know where they got it, and they had their small bubble. And like, I know you guys have like a little bubble, and we've got one here. And it's just, unfortunately, at some point, I guess you kind of have to just hope for the best. It doesn't mean get lazy. Still wear your mask, social distance, but at some point, you have to just be like, we're all doing the best we can, but you have to understand that even in your bubble, there's always going to be a chance. Like I was at the post office the other day, and some dude walks in, goes up to the counter. He's just like, I forgot my mask. And they didn't say anything to him. I was like, cool, this is fun.
Right.
But I do want to say thank you to some of our Patreon members who bought my children's book. Yes, that is right. I thank you guys so much. That's why I was at the post office. I was mailing some out to other people and getting things priced out from some of our overseas listeners, or across the pond. Is that what we say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, really Really appreciate that. For those who don't know, I wrote a children's book a couple years back, based off of my sister's dog and my cat, and it was nice. I had a tiny little girl at home, and I don't think maybe my son. I don't even think my son was born yet, and it was just like a fun little thing, and became like a neat project, and got it illustrated, and had these dolls made, these plush dolls, and so I still have a handful left, and it's like, you know what, not because we always had them selling in local bookstores and things like that, and they did really well, except for the last 6 months when nobody's going in and out of bookstores. So I was like, you know what, why don't I reach out to the Patreon group? Maybe somebody's got some kids or whatever wants it, and dude, that was awesome. And another thing about Patreon that I should mention, as every non-Patreon member presses their skip button, we just opened up an exclusive private Facebook group. So now there's even more interaction. We are having so much fun over there. So definitely check out, just go over and take a look, patreon.com/mindofthemeanie, and you'll see what we have to offer. And I think you'll be very pleased. We have a poll up right now for this month's alternative commentary watch along, Patreon exclusive. It's the 3 runner-ups from last month and a new addition. So I think that's kind of how we're going to do it. What?
That's a new edition song. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't mean to kill your pitch. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. It's great. We still have more people coming in, but also Patreon members. Go over to our Facebook group. We have a bunch of Patreon members who haven't joined into that group yet. Check it out. Give it a whirl, if you will.
And thanks to the folks who have done some shopping in our super secret Patreon store.
Oh man, yes.
Good Lord. Thank you. First of all, thank you. I mean, and I hate to sound like a fucking PBS fucking pledge drive here.
Well, with that language, you definitely don't.
Yeah.
So
that's why I had to throw a couple extra fucks in there for some seasoning. But like every cent spent, on the merchandise, that goes right back into the podcast. Ultimately, we want to save up enough dough for when the world opens up. We do a live show. I definitely want to do a live show.
Oh, 100%.
And that would go towards that. And
the doctor of merch, Andy Slichter, if you're still on here and you're still watching this, like the McCormick's seasoning, if you can somehow, maybe like a censored fuck, but if you can somehow create some sort of McCormick's-esque seasoning with some fucks just for seasoning or whatever it is Meanie just said, throw that on in the old Patreon exclusive.
Throw some fucks in just for seasoning or something.
Something like that. You're a genius. You figure it out.
Yeah.
James Sorensen says that store is effing phenomenal. Well, thank you. And thank you for, I believe you purchased some stuff there. So, we get such cool things over there that, it's something Meanie and I think are just loving, being able to just create more print to order or, what's the other? They're embroidering things, like embroider to order, I guess. Dude, it's just awesome. Really cool stuff.
Yeah. And like I said, look, we have Pro Wrestling Tees. Pro Wrestling Tees does phenomenal work. But they're Pro Wrestling Tees, not Pro Wrestling mugs or flags or stuff like that. So, but
they are Pro Wrestling pins. You can go right now. Yeah. There are limited supplies remaining, so make sure you go now.
Yeah, those are going pretty quick, so you might want to hop on those. But yeah, it's cool to have like something like a secret store for people to get exclusive merch and stuff like that. And we have great people that we work with here who work with us on helping us make merchandise for this podcast, from everything from Andy Slichter to the folks at Pro Wrestling Tees and Mrs. Meanie.
And Mrs. Meanie.
Mrs. Meanie's actually working on some kayfabe stuff that some hand drawn stuff that's going to be pretty cool.
Really? It's
got in the works.
That's some breaking news.
Breaking news. Mrs. Meanie. Yeah, she's got some cool shit she's doing, and she's so talented. Thank you to everybody who went to bought from us last month. Bought from the Kayfabe Patreon store. There's some stuff I want to get there. I want to get like a BWO flag for the background and shit like that. So thank you. I don't know how to put a bow on that one, but
just tie that shit up.
that's what she said.
Ooh. It's night again. No, hey, so what else is going on? We're having some fun here. I feel like the late night shows are always like we go into, we're like, oh man, we're exhausted, but they're crazy. The stink shirt is my new favorite shirt, says Travis.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, what a cool shirt.
The parody that didn't happen, but Paul, I pitched that to Paul, and he fucking howled with laughter and loved it, and he actually did the announcer's voice on, it's stank, just like, Shivani or Bischoff would have done. And I think just the budget of, trying to figure out how to lower me into the fucking building with the fucking, or we could have just had a bunch of guys carry me to the ring. I don't know. We could have done something. There's so many parodies, I pitched. But, the stink, that's pretty good.
That is a real fun one. And it's so cool.
These nighttime shows are a little bit more chill. Hold on, what's that?
Maybe I can do a makeup look for Halloween.
Yes.
What's that?
Since we're not doing traditional Halloween like we normally do because of COVID. Mrs. Meanie's going to work on some makeup looks. So, yeah, Halloween is Mrs. Meanie's WrestleMania.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
agreed. I've always felt the same way, but man, I don't do it as well as she does. But I've always agreed.
She's done her outfits so well that when we go to the McCuskers Halloween party, they tell us we're not allowed to win because they want like a new guy to win, so they feel like they won something and then come back to the bar. I won this prize at McCusker. I'll go back there all the time. Yeah. Meanwhile, we're the same two humps to show up every week and.
Hey, Harold says he would love to see a black BWO shirt with blue print. You sure that's not on there? It might be on there. If it's not, it will be.
It can be.
Yeah.
Anything. It's whatever you dream of.
Yeah.
I have a blue one on a white shirt, but I don't have a blue on a black. But hey,
make it happen.
Yeah.
And again, hey, even from the Patreon, you go in there and you get something that's more like a BWO, like that's a Blue Meanie thing. Well, that goes directly to support the Blue Meanie. And anything that's mine goes to support me, like that wonderful Sarcasm is My Superpower shirt that the Blue Meanie is currently wearing. That is also available at ProWrestlingTees.com/so says Shernoff. And then you've got this, the ProWrestlingTees.com/Mind of the Meanie. That should be a shirt that I'm wearing. Is this what is happening with this show today? I feel like we've just gone into a whole thing talking about our merch.
Yeah.
Without it even being our merch. We might skip our merch segment today. Yeah. Go to Collar and Elbow too while you're at it.
Yeah, Collar and Elbow Wrestling Brand.
They're great stuff. It's really awesome.
Meanie 10%.
Doc Gallows. I don't know.
Yeah, Doc Gallows. The same fucking thing I talk about every week.
Man.
We should just record it and just drop it in. We say the same shit every time. No, they got some good shirts in this week. They did in living color, or a living color, however you want to say it. Fucking parody shirt, which is pretty cool.
I think In Living Color was a television show.
Well, Living Color, the band sued In Living Color over the name, or something like that. But a little useless music knowledge.
Yeah. Well, we did promise lots and lots of useless knowledge, all contained in the mind of the Meanie.
Episode 23. I gotta start digging in there for some more. Somebody said something. I heard something.
Harold says my girlfriend is like that about Halloween. Said it's to her it's as big as Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, for me, as a Jewish gentleman, it was my Christmas because I didn't have a Christmas until I married into it. So now I get everything.
Yeah.
And by everything, I mean nothing because I have children, so I don't get the stuff. I just give it to them. Or of course, I give Santa a list. But
yeah,
Santa,
whatchamacallit,
great guy, handsy. What?
No, the last couple of Halloweens have been pretty cool because we were we were on the road for the Philadelphia Eagles, and it kind of just happened to work out that way. Like well, it'll be 3 years ago. We went to London for the Eagles Jaguars game, and that fell on Halloween. So Mrs. Meanie got to be all witchy in London, and then last year we went to the Eagles Buffalo Bills game, which fell on Halloween. Then we stayed at my buddy Tidwell's house, Chris Tidwell's house, notorious TID. Shout out to him, and we celebrated Halloween in Canada. So 2 years in a row was kind of like an international affair. So
yeah,
and this year, it's
hope you got that out of your system.
Yeah, pretty much. I was big Papa Smurf. You know,
such
Papa Smurf
amazing,
dressed up.
If you have not seen this, go on, just scroll through Meanie's Instagram or whatever it is. Find this. It is so funny and so well done. And so is the Mrs. Meanie was Gene. It was basically like
it was Gene Simmons meets Richard Simmons.
Yeah, so it was like Gene Simmons, but it was like
hold on, what's that, hon? Gene Slimmons.
Okay.
Yes.
Which was just so cool too. But yeah, no.
We walked to that party and then like everybody had like the casual fare and they saw us. They're like, "What the fuck? These people put some fucking work into it."
Seriously, it's the way it should be.
Yeah,
that's amazing. No, man. Hey, you know what? I was watching AEW. It's a wrestling program on TNT, and
heard of it.
And I was watching, and I got to tell you, I
got some ideas for them.
Yeah, yeah. We'll be talking about that this Saturday or 2 days ago, depending on when you're listening to that. For alternative commentary, which is right over my shoulder there. Alternative commentary, all out. But they're talking about every week they've been doing this. Anytime you see Jon Moxley, they'll say his title reign, the length of days from his title reign. Right. But he won the title. That was the last show that I was at. It was that pay-per-view that I was working for Fight and in Chicago, and then then the world shut down. And those number of days, as they continue to talk about this amazing title reign and how long it's been, just makes me so miserable every time because it's a constant reminder of exactly how many days since the last time I was able to get out in front of wrestling fans and feel that energy. Even when look, I'm not stupid. I know the energy of that crowd wasn't because I was walking around doing a promo for Fight TV.
Right.
But it's just fun to feel like you're, even adjacent to the show in a way and feel that energy. And man, I we've talked about this off air and on air, but I missed that. And, for what I was doing, it's even more like, I don't know when I can do it again, because the big thing that I would do that I really had a lot of fun with was I would be right out there with the crowd. And, I would always be standing in this mass of humanity and pulling people aside to interview and stuff. And it was a lot of fun and being able to interact with people. And it even got to the point where I'd start seeing some of the same fans when I'd return to a place. And it was a lot of fun to be able to do that. And they knew that I was doing something for Fight, so they'd like get themselves there so that I'll interview them, But it was a lot of fun. And, of course, I love being backstage as well. And it's one of those things where you're like, first of all, I don't blame AEW for taking a little while before they're welcoming more people into their locker room, And then there's the fact that, like, A, how many fans are going to be there? B, I'm not going around and interviewing people outside before they come into the building or be like, hey, how's it feel to have them shove a thing up your nose and swab your brain, so that you could watch some AEW.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. But it got me thinking about how long it's been, and I realized that a couple days ago was 6 months to the day from that event from the last time that I was at a wrestling event of any kind. And I was trying to think the last time, for you, I think you had said before it was February, beginning of February, right?
It was the Ring of Honor show.
Right. So,
yeah. My last two shows were for two different companies, which is kind of cool, MLW and Ring of Honor. And like I said, if those were my last two shows in the ring, that all right.
Although
because I don't want to get back to this thing until we know there's like a parachute.
Although I heard that you had you were going for the Ring of Honor 6-man tag titles. That's what I just heard
if
online.
Me and the bouncers, or the bruisers, if they want to
take
me on, hey,
yeah,
I'm used to 6-man tagging, so
that would be
beer World Order meets the Blue World Order.
Yeah, Beer World Order would be. I mean, I think a lot of people would pay to see that.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh man, this is okay. Harold just wrote something in that is incredible.
Okay.
And Harold's going to have to follow up with some pictures. Harold says, I was the Blue Meanie for Halloween back in 1996.
Nice.
A, before James Sorensen was born. And B, how cool is that, man? I mean, maybe that's not as cool to you because I feel like it's not the first time. I know it's not the first time, and that's something we'll talk about on Halloween. But that's a little, just kind of, I don't know.
It's just, look, I always appreciate when somebody wants to be me for Halloween, but like I'm self-conscious to the point where, man, those poor people are going to have to explain who they are and what they're doing. Or so, like, if it's not like a wrestling fan, that's like, like if it's not like, it's not like Hulk Hogan, stuff like that. So
yeah. I don't see what the big deal is. I've been wearing Blue Meanie t-shirts for the last, 23 weeks. I feel like every single day.
Yeah.
24 weeks now at this point. Well, we didn't have t-shirts originally. No, I think that's so cool.
No, that's all. No, I definitely want to see photos.
Yeah.
You know what? Another cool thing is one time somebody sent me a photo. There's 3 fellas from Japan dressed as the BWO. And then when WrestleMania was in New York / New Jersey, there was these dudes walking around WrestleCon, and they were, in cosplay. One was like Avatar, Al Snow's Avatar, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I went over, I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I realized those were the guys dressed as the BWO, and they had their BWO stuff. They brought like a change of costume. They walked around the convention. They were like, Cher with a fucking costume change every fucking song, and like they went around, and it was like the coolest thing. I got a photo of me hugging the guy because I was so blown away with that. You see something.
Wait.
Oh. Wait. Another Mrs. Meanie running.
Okay, so at that WrestleCon in New York, there you go. So I stray from his table all the time. I usually end up wherever the ECW guys are. I always end up busting Sandman's balls or whoever. So I was actually over there, and I see the Blue Meanie walk by. And the guy that was with him had a T-shirt that I designed for his lung surgery benefit. It was a concert / comedy show thing. It was on my 21st birthday. It was his lung surgery benefit. So it's the Meanie Van Halen design. It's him with the guitar.
Yeah.
I designed that for his lung surgery benefit. Wasn't the guy from Japan wearing this T-shirt? And I was like, I drew that.
That's so
like,
cool.
I stopped and took pictures with them. I was like, that's my husband.
That's
They're
really
like,
cool.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
He must have bought it on like eBay back in the day.
Yeah, because we used to do eBay back in the day. We don't bother shipping our own shirts. But yeah, it was like cool being like out in the wild and seeing the Blue Meanie.
Yeah.
I was like, I love him.
That's really awesome.
Not you, but him.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, that was a cool, and that was a cool moment too. Because because I have the shirt up on Pro Wrestling Tees now, but it doesn't have the back. So when he's walking by, I was like, oh, that guy got from Pro Wrestling Tees. And I saw the back. It had the listing of the bands and the comedians like Reverend Bob Levy and all that stuff. Did my lung surgery benefit. I was like, oh, shit. That's one of the, because like we only had a handful of those done. And I was like,
That's
holy
awesome.
shit. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. You know, and that goes back to me saying I appreciate, you know, anybody willing to dress up like me for Halloween or, you know, invest in the podcast, invest in, you know, the Pro Wrestling Tees stuff and shit like that, or whatever we're doing. Because there's so much out there you could be doing. But yeah, that was pretty cool to meet the guys. I had the photo on my hard drive for almost over a decade. And then just to meet him in person it's so fucking cool.
That is really neat. And it's something that's so, you know, I've been able to watch it kind of, you know, being able to see how this podcast has taken off and this community we've been able to build and getting to watch how many people interact with you on social media and with the podcast. It's so cool. You know, we were talking off air, or actually I texted you at one point, like, I'm just really enjoying this positive community that we seem to be building here. It's just really, it's so refreshing in this ridiculous world that we live in, pre and post pandemic. I mean, it's just, you know, the world's just always kind of been a mess in one way or another. And it's really, it's nice to have something where people are kind of getting together. And it's important that the listeners of the show understand how much we really do enjoy this. Like, we're having such a good time. And then when, you know, we always were plugging our merchandise we're doing. And yeah, look, obviously we're trying to make money to make this show better and build our careers and do things like that. But realistically speaking, it is so flattering when someone's like, yeah, I want to spend some money for a shirt that depicts some stupid thing one of us said on a podcast, you know?
Yeah.
And to have an incredibly talented person like Andy Slichter making those things for us. I mean, I don't want to put him over too much more because then he's going to start realizing that like he's actually really talented and
he's going to get a rib removed and suck his own dick.
Oh, I was going with he was going to go. He was going to start charging a lot of money. But yeah, man, hey. What? I know one shirt Andy's not making.
I was this close to the perfect blowjob, and then my back gave out. So, fuck. Then I fell off the couch.
Oh, oh my God.
Sorry.
No, James says you guys are truly amazing. No, James.
No,
if I know there's a delay, but if that had any response to what we're just talking about, we're gonna have to disagree. Hey, Devin's here.
Hey.
Good to have you here. Devin was one of those people who picked up the children's book. I really appreciate that, man.
Thank you.
And man. Andy says that's a no from me, dog. And little old school American Idol right there. But yeah. Man, so what's going on now? Look, so this Saturday we've got the Mimosa Mayhem match, or 2 days ago, as you're hearing this.
Great idea.
Great idea. It's been put out there that this came from the Blue Meanie. But one other thing that's been going out there is there have been a lot of posts lately about Orange v Blue.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that that's something that can happen at some point. And as we've said to, some of our pod squad, we appreciate the enthusiasm. Don't bully Tony Khan and Cody.
Yeah, not to the point where they go, oh, fuck it. We'll never do it now.
There's a fine line there. Give them
Pace yourself.
Oh, my God, I'd love to see that. Don't give them the, hey, Tony, the fuck's wrong with you? What? You too scared? You don't have the balls to book a match like that? Don't.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Tony's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's giving people.
Did I ever tell you when I saved his life?
What?
I did.
No.
Really? I mean, well, I told him his shoe was untied. But the way I looked at it This was in Baltimore, okay? And it was backstage, and it's in like they had like a kind of a makeshift gorilla because it was really weird the way it was set up. It was almost the backstage area was like on a stage. Like the arena had like a built-in like I guess it wasn't like a I don't know. It was an interesting setup.
You said
there.
Baltimore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that building's historic because like if you've ever watched like matches from there, like when I think NWA ran the Crockett Cup there, and there's all that you always get caught the like that stage in the background.
Yeah.
In some of the shots and stuff like that. And then when I wrestled there for WWE, that was kind of halfway. That was the way to get to Gorilla, but that's also where like Richie for Magic was set up. All the seamstresses were set up on that stage.
Yeah. So the way
like
that AEW had it was they really just had, they have their two entranceways. And I'll just be honest, one goes directly to the good guys locker room and one goes directly to the bad guys locker room. But behind there was kind of like they had monitors set up, people could watch stuff, and that's where a lot was going on. He was walking away. There were legitimately, this part is true, to get to the locker room area, you went down these like really steep stairs.
Right.
And
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I mean, anyone can really picture who's ever seen like a stage, like at like your high school auditorium or something. There was like little stairs. And he was walking, and I saw that he was just straight up completely untied. And so I gave him a tap on the shoulder. I was like, hey, excuse me, just want to let you know your shoe's untied. He's like, oh, thank you. He tied his shoe.
You knelt down. He put his foot up on your knees and got dust all over your pants and tied his shoe and then just mushed you.
And then I said, thank you. But I looked at that and I thought that I may have just saved Tony Khan's life.
And hence
why
we still haven't,
God forbid, tripped going down those steps.
Well, the fans have you to thank.
Yeah, so I don't want to say that literally every single moment that happens in AEW for the remainder of time is because of me. But I'm just going to let that go out there.
Dude, I always loved wrestling in Baltimore. BWO did a 6-man there for, I think, Velocity. And I think that was the lead up to, might have been the lead up to Great American Bash. And,
is that the one where you faced Nick Burke and Jay Static and Scott Fowler?
You have better memory than me. I remember Burke because I've known Burke since he was a kid.
So here's why I know that. Because Static and Fowler both worked for the promotion that I ran. Scott Fowler was our world champion. And we were the ones who convinced him, my brother and I were the ones who convinced him to change his name to Scott Fowler because he was going by the Doc. And we're like, be Scott Fowler. We're going to turn you heel. We'll do this whole thing he'd like never done before. Not that we were some giant promotion, but he was like, working steadily for us. And he was so like on the fence about it that I said to him, I said, listen, I will get you gear made. Like new gear. I'll get you these like biker short things, like just to change it up a bit. And I got those for him. And when he did the Velocity show as kind of a thank you, because this was about a year after he wore those tights.
Look at you being the fucking entrepreneur.
So, yeah, man. Hey, so I remember that very, very well. But
that was a good match. It was weird. No, it's weird, like, because normally in WWE, when you have a match, they give you an agent, right? An agent. A producer. But for that match, we had like 3 producers. And I'm like, is it because it's a 6-man? Like it was Ricky Steamboat, Ted DiBiase, and one other person who's slipped in my mind, and they're producing our match. I'm just like, cool. But
I need to keep an eye on Nova.
Yeah.
You never know what that guy's going to do.
Shifty Nova. But yeah, it was the cool thing about that is that we got like to have a match that let us be us. Like it wasn't like a squash match, but a showcase match.
Right, but it did showcase they were the enhancement talent. And even though it wasn't squash, they were the local talent, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
But that was their job. Their job was to make you look good going into the show. Whereas sometimes you guys were in a position, I don't want to say you guys were like a job squad. But seriously, I mean, that's kind of the idea of it, was sometimes you were in the position where you were making the other people look good, which is not a bad position to be in by any means, of course. But
everybody's important.
Yeah, but so that had to have been a lot of fun to be able to just kind of go out there and just be able to be that BWO, that fun, you know.
It's like my whole career, I've always had like competitive matches. I maybe, been squashed, a couple times here and there when I first started. Like, my first year, and Al sent us over to Chicago for Windy City Wrestling and for Sam DeCero, and we were basically just, squash guys and stuff like that. But like this was like, maybe twice in my career, I had a match where I got all the offense. And, it was to showcase me. It was so weird because, like, I'm so thoughtful of, making sure somebody else gets offense in. So, like, the 2 times I had matches where like they weren't supposed to get offense in, it's just supposed to be all me. I was just like, I felt like such a dick. I was just like, I'm going to do this, and I'm so used to asking, I do a match with somebody I never worked for. I go, what do you do? They tell me, and I work in their stuff around what I do and stuff like that. And, the one match was in Boston or something like that, or Massachusetts. And then, like I said, that 6-man tag. And I was a little bit more at ease with, Stevie and Nova, when it's just me saying, nope. No offense for you. I feel like it was us 3. It was a good match, and I probably hit like the best moonsault of my career, by the way, in that match. It's like I've hit a few, but that one was like on the fucking money. And the crazy thing about that show, that TV, I was working for a promotion in Eugene, Oregon, Portland, Oregon area called West Coast Wrestling Connection. And I worked for them, and they set up the flight to where I land right the morning I'm supposed to drive to Baltimore to do this thing. And they gave me like the flight home from hell where it was like 3 layovers or 4 I was like, they're trying to save money. I'm like, you're trying to kill me, first of all. First of all, you're trying to fucking kill me. So like I do this, hell of a, it was a hell of a red eye. From Portland to Philly, 2 layovers, and I landed Philly, and I just get in my car, and I just drive to Baltimore, and I don't even know how I got to Baltimore. I was just like so tired.
Did you find yourself in the hotel? You ever have that? You're like lying in bed, and you're just like, how the fuck? Like you're like looking at like, I don't even know how I got. Like I remember I was driving at some point, and then here I am. I made it.
It's so weird. I was so exhausted, but then I got to the building. I was fine, which is weird. And then, driving home, it's like, Baltimore to Philly, it's like an hour and a half. And I take pride on being a road warrior, This is like... your
work with Animal and Hawk, I have to say, in Japan was one of my favorite...
But I was so tired, like I had to pull over and just get a room for the night and just sleep it off. And then the next morning I got up and drove home. And that's
which is the smart thing to do. It's funny because you're talking about Baltimore to Philly. When I did the Fight and Focus for Ring of Honor, they were in Baltimore. And that night when the show was over, I drove Mike Weber from Fight TV. I drove him to his hotel. Right. And he goes to me, he's like, hey, do you want us to get you a room? Like, because I was just going to go straight home. He's like, do you want to get you a room? It's late. It's whatever. I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, I'm fine. And I was, because I was still hyped up. This was very early in my career of doing this stuff, of my non-wrestling, and working with Fight TV. It was the first time I'd ever done anything with a company, even at the level of a Ring of Honor. I was so hyped up, so excited that I was like, dude, no, I'm flying. I can do whatever. About 20 minutes into that drive to Philadelphia, I'm like smacking myself in the face to stay awake. It
Right.
was, and I'm another, half hour outside of Philadelphia. So that was rough. And it just made me think of it when you were talking about specifically going from Baltimore to Philly. It was, maybe there's a cloud you drive through that knocks you out.
Seriously, there is.
I should have I made it home, and I remember thinking to myself, that was a stupid move. Next time, even if you have to pull over somewhere and take a quick nap. Like I remember thinking to myself, like, dude, you got lucky on that drive home. So it's no joke, but
Driving tired is just as bad as driving drunk, if you think about it, just because. Yeah. And I've tried to be that guy, and you try to do little tricks and stuff like that. I was driving back to Philly from Memphis, and I got to be like middle of Virginia somewhere. I was like almost to Washington, and I just got tired. I just pulled over, and there was a 24-hour Dunkin' Donuts. I grabbed a large coffee, extra cream, extra sugar, and I grabbed a bag of Skittles. Yeah. Ate those, drank the coffee, and I was like, I was good to go for the next 2 days. But and then there's I don't know if I told this story before. One time, me and Stevie did a show in Pittsburgh for Lord Zoltan's. He has a show once a year called the Deaf Wrestle Fest. His children were deaf, and they go to school for the deaf out in Pittsburgh, and he does a fundraiser to raise money for the school.
Nice.
So I don't know if this was a rib on Paul's part, but like I was talking about, we're doing tomorrow, Sunday we did the East Sub Arena show. I was like, we're doing a show for the, in Pittsburgh tomorrow, blah blah blah. So like after the ECW Arena shows, we did the, promos at the Cylinder of Sin, the Travel Lodge, and you're on the top floor. And when we're doing our promo, the sun was up. It's like, and we still had to drive to fucking Pittsburgh.
Jeez.
So we did our promos, got in the car, drove to Pittsburgh, did the show, wrestled, took a shower. Iron Sheik taught me how to take a shower. Then got out of the shower.
Man, let's back up on that one. Don't want to let that one go by. Iron Sheik taught you how to take a shower?
Yeah.
Were you humbled during any part of that?
Very. So me and Stevie wrestle on this show, and get changed, and I go take a shower. I mean, it's like a regular, like gym shower. It's like open floors, flooring, like shower head, rows of shower heads and stuff like that. So I'm like, So Iron Sheik comes in. Bubba, how you doing? He goes, Bubba, when Sheiky takes a shower, he goes, all the way hot. And he turns the water all the way hot. Oh, Jesus. And he goes, and then I'd wash up, and then like 2 minutes later, the rest of the Iron Sheik stick comes in the room. And like, I mean, up until that point, it was just the neck. And so I'm watching it, this fucking 8-foot earthworm will come into the fucking locker room. And so I was like, oh,
okay. I have nothing to say to that.
Yeah, she comes in. Baba, she could take shower. I go, all the way hot. And he's, blah blah blah. I'm doing my thing. The dick comes in, and then like we go to I'm about to done. He goes, Baba, but when I'm done, I go, all the way cold, and he turns the water all the way cold to where it's freezing cold. He's like, and then my muscles get all tight, and he starts fucking flexing in the shower. He's like, it's like he's doing the fucking like the Nikita Koloff, je dois magnum tie. I was like, oh, but Iron Sheik taught me how to take a shower.
Did things retract at that point?
No, he knows so there was no effect on the Persian club. There was no effect on the Persian club. Didn't even wink or flinch. I mean, But yeah, that show.
Oh, spoiler! I think we just found another Meanie Toons episode. Oh my god!
Hope there's enough bandwidth for that fucking thing. Vascular. It's like somebody yelling and they got a vein poking in their forehead. It's like, all right. So that happens. And then so we go to drive home. And this is like still like we haven't slept. So we're driving and like I always say every time I travel, there's like a landmark that we hit. And, I call that the go home spot. So we hit like Harrisburg. Harrisburg's like 100 miles from Philly. I'm like, we're going to go home. But there's like a good hour of that trip. Mm-hmm. I have no recollection of.
And you were driving or Stevie was driving?
Hold on. Correction. Let me rewind that. There's an hour of that trip neither Stevie or I recall. There's a moment where we're driving and then all of a sudden we're there and there's like a deer in the road and we stop for the deer. And then we look at the clock. We look at each other like, what the fuck? And we kind of like pull over. Like the next rest stop was like 5 miles away. We go there and we just get out and we start, fucking doing jumping jacks and smacking each other, smacking ourselves in the face to fucking wake up because we're like, man, that was a good fucking hour. Yeah.
And hey, you can laugh about it now, but that's dangerous.
It's scary. It's
rough.
So scary. Al told me, I know plenty of guys. Fucking JYD passed away. He died driving home from seeing his daughter in college. He and he's one of those. Probably one of the boys where I could do this.
Yeah.
Fell asleep at the wheel. So dangerous.
I remember doing a show with a couple years ago at this point, and Tony Atlas was on. Mm-hmm. And I went back. I was doing commentating for it. And I went back and I'm going around at the end and shaking everybody's hand and, thanking them. And I'm getting ready to leave. And I go over to Tony Atlas. That man's like half asleep, like to the point where I went to like shake his hand. He was like, so like, I don't know, it seemed like I don't want to say he was on something. Dude could have just been tired, but I said, and I asked him, like, even though I didn't have this relationship with Tony Atlas, but I was like genuinely concerned for him as a human being. I was like, hey, did they put you up in a hotel? He's like, no, I'm driving back. And I'm like, honestly, like thinking to myself, like I'm almost ready to just be like, hey, listen, man, here, take a couple bucks. Here's a hotel for it. Like, and I honestly like. Now,
did the promoter say they weren't, or did he just turn it down?
I have no idea. But I will say that I legitimately the next morning and even the day after that was looking on wrestling news sites because he seemed so exhausted that I was like, how is this guy driving a few hours back to wherever he's going? Like, but yeah, I will tell you one time when I was coming home, because I used to take pride in the fact, like when my family lives in Florida, and when they all first made their mass exodus 10 years ago to move down to Florida, I would drive down a lot, and I could work remotely and do stuff, and I would drive down, and I would just drive straight through. I would just leave around 1:00 in the afternoon and just get there, whenever I got there.
Right. How many hours was that?
So straight is something like 18, but I'd stop and but it would probably take about 20 hours, I'd say. And I took a lot of pride in the fact that I could do that. I mean, I drove across the country by myself. Drove across the country once by myself, and it took me 3 days, I think, from Philly to California. And, obviously I stopped there. Obviously I stopped overnight and, but they were still long, long days of 14 hours, and everything. I could not do that now. Like I honestly, I was in my early 20s. when I was doing this stuff to Florida and like, mid-20s, whatever. I was mid-20s. But I was in my early 20s when I was in OVW. And I would drive straight home from Louisville to, outside of Philadelphia. And I honestly don't even remember how many hours that is, but it's an amount,
Look at him. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what you would know even better, even though I did.
I would say Philly to Louisville is 13 hours, I would say.
Okay. So
you're an extra hour from me.
Yeah. So it was a hike. And so I would do that straight through. But I remember one time I was driving and it was super late and I was so exhausted. So I pull over and I get myself a Monster Energy drink.
Yeah.
And I'm driving, and I got one of those big ones too, So I'm driving and all of a sudden torrential downpour.
Oh.
Like out of nowhere.
Right.
I got the medium wall to my left. I'm in the left lane because I'm trying to pass this enormous truck. It's like 18-wheeler thing. Like it's.
I do not like I do not like trucks.
No, and of course, in any situation, you want to just get past that, especially when you're sandwiched between the wall and that. Well, now
if you're like in the blind spot, that's my biggest fear.
And now it is just a torrential downpour.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to get past this thing, and it's kicking water back at me and everything. And for whatever reason, I decided at that time that I'm just going to take a sip of my Monster Energy drink. Right. And I hit the smallest of bumps.
Right.
But enough that, swear to God, it splashes into my eye. Thank God it wasn't both of my eyes, like legitimately, or I wouldn't be here. My eye, if you ever wonder what a monster in the eye feels like, it burns like a son of a bitch.
Oh.
My one eye is just burning. I am now driving like this. People who are watching the video can see this. I'm driving along. There's no wiggle room because I've got a truck and I've got a wall on either side. So this isn't even like, I can swerve off into, on the shoulder.
The shoulder.
What's that?
I said shoulder as well.
Yeah. And so there's no wiggle room there. Somehow I made it past that. I got off at the first exit and just waited for the rain to stop. And I also had a bottle of water with me, and I basically just squeezed the water into my eye. It was just a bad. It was a bad.
It sounds
situation.
like a Jim Carrey plot point or something like that.
Yeah, it was one thing after another. It's going, and then you're squeezing this in your eye and everything. Yeah, it was. Oh man, it was. That was a disaster.
I was driving to Al Snow's gym to train. The furthest I had been away from home was New York City, right? And I thought that was going to be like, forever. And that was an adventure in itself. But like I was driving Atlantic City to Lima, and I'm thinking, oh, this will be 6 hours. Yeah, to the end of Pennsylvania, maybe. But like it was so weird. I don't know if I was mentally trying to talk myself out of the trip, but like I leave Atlantic City. I'm like halfway to Philly, and like I'm looking in the rear view, and I see like smoke. I'm like, oh my God, is my car on fire? Whatever. Stupid me. It's just the exhaust from my tailpipe, and it's cold, and stuff like that. So mentally, I pull over. I call this happened. Like my grandfather wouldn't know. He never drove a day in his life, But I think I was mentally going, oh, okay, I'll just turn around. Mm-hmm. It's like the fear of taking the leap, So I was like, okay, I'll continue on. So I go over the bridge in Philly, and I start getting into a groove where and back then we didn't have GPS. We had. I went to, I was a member of AAA, still am, but they had this thing called a triptych, where you say, hey, I'm driving from Atlantic City to Lima, Ohio. Can you plan out my trip for me? And they, section by section, make a flip book of a map, and it's all highlighted of the road you got to take and all this stuff, and it's a printout, and okay, I'm on this page now, and instead of me just holding up a map and figuring it out myself, right, they do this for you. So like I'm halfway through, I'm hitting the groove, I'm looking at my triptych, And the cool thing is like middle of Pennsylvania. It's the day after WrestleMania 10, and I'm like, I didn't really prepare for music wise, so I'm trying to catch like when any local station. It's a lot of country, this, that, and the other thing. And I catch one station and it has like some music on it. And they give the results for WrestleMania 10. I'm like, that's unique.
What?
Because like it was a middle Pennsylvania radio station, or when you're in the middle of Pennsylvania, you could pretty much catch radio stations from either Philly or wherever. I always call it Baltimore. I call it Pittsburgh station. I would catch Baltimore stations in the middle of Pennsylvania too, which is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of in the like mid-south Pennsylvania, there's a lot of like Baltimore Ravens fans I found out recently. Just
so they're airing.
Yeah, because like
station there. Yeah.
When I lived in Atlantic City, we used to get Philly and New York stations. So I guess they catered for the people vacationing from New York or whatever. But like I'm driving through middle Pennsylvania and I'm like searching around. And I'm hearing a lot of like country, and they're giving away. They're giving out the results. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And there's like an art to driving where like, and I do it now to where like I hit the same rest stops every time and stuff like that. And back then, before like CDs and cars, there was always tape cassettes. So I would always stop at like the same. This is before this trip, but like I would always stop at like a truck stop, and you'd find like so and so's greatest hits, or I would get Jackie the Joke Man tapes, and just listen to it like over and over and over and over again. But like I'm driving, so I get through Pennsylvania. I'm in Ohio, and all of a sudden my car's losing steam. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I pull over, and I'm trying to start it back up. Won't kick over. Okay, so I call AAA. They come out. My battery is dead. Odd. So they juice me up, and I go from like Wheeling, West Virginia, which like there's a part where you leave Pennsylvania and you're in West Virginia for like 2 seconds, and then you're in Ohio. So I was in Wheeling, West Virginia, which always struck me because I remember reading wrestling results, and I always like, there was like I think Owen Hart had a tryout match. Wheeling, West Virginia. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And it's just a weird, like it's kind of a cool name, Wheeling, West Virginia. But yeah, I get my car jumped, and I'm driving again. My fucking windshield wiper flies off on the passenger side. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I have to pull back over again. And to keep it from like digging into my windshield, because it presses against it, I like look for a bunch of napkins and tape and fucking just like, use this prosthetic thing to keep the metal from digging into my window. And I'm just driving, and it's like planes, trains, and automobiles, or Tommy Boy when the deer wrecks the car and they're still driving, It's just, I got a battery that's dying. I got one windshield off. And so I get to Columbus, Ohio, home of Frankie Williams. Frankie Williams, Columbus, Ohio. I'm in that ring no matter what. And my car loses steam again. I pull over. It's like, fuck. It's like Columbus, Ohio. And I call AAA. And they're like, oh, your alternator's dead. So they, tow me over to this garage. Like I had all this money saved up. I saved up money, from wrestling school to, for tuition when I was working at casinos. And then I started saving up like this nest egg for living expenses, rent, food, stuff like that. So I was like, oh man, what's it? And so I had to dip into that fund, pay for a new alternator and all that stuff. But, and I was smart enough. It was by the time they finished the car, it's late. I'm like maybe 2 hours from Lima. I'll get a room and stay over. I stayed at like a Red Roof, like right down the street. So, and first time moving away from home, I literally packed my entire fucking bedroom into my car. I was like, some guys would visit Al's school and they would bring like a bag of clothing. I brought like crates of VHS tapes. I brought a lamp.
You were there to stay. I mean, that's, what I mean? Like, I'm sure there was nowhere in your mind where you like, I'll pop by for a little bit,
Yeah. And like, I was like, I was literally moving there to move there. So I brought every like comfort from home. I literally packed up my whole bedroom in my fucking car for this ride. So I get to the Red Roof Inn. I'm the furthest away from home. I'm the furthest away from my family I've ever been. I'm scared shitless, you know? Like, when you're home, there's some sort of comfort.
Sure.
You know, familiar people, familiar air. So, like, every, 30 minutes, I would get up and look to make sure my car was still there. You know? I'm sleeping. Get up. Oh, okay, my car's still there. You know? Yeah. Mrs. Meanie just yelled, I still do that. I'm nuts. So the next day, and I powered through to Ohio, to Lima. It's a beautiful drive. And like when we did StarCast, I basically took that same drive because StarCast was in Chicago, and I wanted to stop at, because I was just saying, I never had, when I first started, Al shipped us off to Chicago to do, job matches for Windy City. I basically took the same route, from Philly to Lima to Chicago as, my training days. But, what was I saying? Get to Lima, and it's a good thing I just, stayed over and slept that night. And I go up, I find the building, I find the school, and I go up, and I go, hi, I'm looking for Al Snow. And Al Snow goes, hi, I'm Al. I'm leaving. And he was literally leaving to drive up to Michigan to get padding for the ring. He's driving up to meet Dan Severn. Dan Severn was getting him padding for the ring.
Oh, wow.
And he left me with the students. And that almost made me, pack my car back up and drive back to, that was crazy. But the funny part about it, I was like, hey, can somebody help me bring some stuff up from my car? They're like, yeah, and they're like 3 trips later, like, how much did you fucking bring? There's a guy, Pete the Pirate, not his real name. The Lumberjack, not his real name. I
know the Zebra Kid was there.
Zebra Kid had arrived. And whatchamacallit, it was interesting, but I wouldn't trade that road trips like that, like I said, we went to when I was training with Al, me and a couple of students. There's one student, Steve Nixon, from Detroit, incredibly talented kid. Probably could have been a really good cruiserweight. I don't know why he never got picked up or whatever, but he got tickets to Spring Stampede. So a bunch of us drove from Lima out to Chicago, met up with him. And on the way back from Spring Stampede, it was another one of those things where you get that highway hypnosis. Mm-hmm. And you get that part of the highway that's, the lanes are painted, and they're just like the merging lanes where it's line. And you're looking at that, and that's like, ooh. Yep. It's like, lines are moving, and you're just, you pull over and, again, smack yourself in the face or get something, some sugary drink. Yeah. But me and Mrs. Meanie get Sour Patch Kids now.
Oh, dude, 100%. I would get watermelon. If I could find the Sour Patch watermelon, I would always go for those. I
would eat that until it would shred my tongue. And it's just like, but I'm awake, And
it was always like, I would always have to get something that was, like you had mentioned Skittles earlier. So for me, it would be like peanut M&Ms or some crap. Like, it had to be something, it couldn't be like regular M&Ms. It had to be peanut M&Ms. Because I had to like be able to focus on like almost biting the chocolate shell off, like it's something that was like giving me something to do, right?
I eat peanut M&Ms the exact same way. I'll chew it in half and then like distract the peanut and then eat the shell and then eat the peanut.
And then, so it would be that, or
very
like
strategic.
With the Sour Patch watermelon or the kids, it would basically be like just like sucking on it like a candy until it was like you said, your tongue was bleeding, and then. But again, it was like there's a method to the madness on that, right? Like the method is I'm not just eating, I'm now giving myself something to do subconsciously to keep myself awake. And it's
because like sometimes well, now we make road trip mixes, but in those early days, just wrestling or going to shows and stuff like that, you either had a tape you listened to 80 million times each way. One time, like me and I rode out to Philly with Al, and then we're driving. He wrestled at the ECW Arena. It was the time he wrestled either Benoit or Osamu Nishimura at the arena, and we were driving back to Philly. And I think it was Osamu because that's a whole nother story. Yeah, we were listening to like Nirvana Unplugged over and over and over. And it's like, it's not that long of a show. So like you're hearing The Man Who Sold the World, for the 8th time. And I was happy Al didn't get, sick of it. We just listening because like it was back in the day when we had cassettes, they had to, where it would automatically flip over and just play the other side. So nobody. Oh, there's a great story Raven told me, and he won't refute this one because he actually told me this one. I guess Raven. It was Raven, somebody, and Disco Inferno. I love road trip stories.
Oh yeah.
And Raven was driving in the passenger seat, and the other guy was in the passenger seat, and Disco Inferno's in the back. And I always say when you're the third guy in the back, you're like the loneliest guy. You're just waving out their backseat passengers like, "Hey, I'm backseat guy too." You have no control of the radio. They don't let you read the fucking map. So Disco's in the back, and he's like, "Hey, can we put in this? It might." I'm just going to say this ABBA tape or something like that,
Yeah,
I don't know what song.
Meanie.
What's that?
Don't fact check you.
Don't fact check me. But
An ABBA.
Dancing Queen.
Dancing Queen.
Hey,
yeah. There's nothing wrong with liking Dancing Queen. That
gets
ABBA's
over. ABBA's over with me.
I'm just saying, Dancing Queen was always that used to come on at the gym because freaking LA Fitness, they were always on top of it. The most hardcore music to work out to. But Dancing Queen would come on, and I never understood why, but got an extra little pep in my step during my workout when Dancing Queen would come on. So just throwing that out there. Full disclosure.
Be proudful. I love ABBA. I'm not a huge fan. I only get the greatest hits because I'm trimming the fat. But
I'll celebrate their entire catalog.
But Disco Inferno has this tape, and he's like, "Hey, can we listen to this?" And they're like, "No, selling them." Hey, can we listen? A couple minutes later, 20 minutes, 30, whatever. Hey, can we listen to this tape? No, selling them. And then from the back seat, he's trying to physically throw the cassette tape into the cassette player from the back, as if that would actually work.
What?
And they pop so hard that he tried to do it. They put the tape on or something like that. But he's like, fuck it, let me try. And he's like, trying to throw a dart at a dartboard, but he's throwing the tape at a cassette player, as if it would magically go in and hit play, and like a Michael Jackson video or something, where he does, something goofy,
Hey, he's and now he's one of our neighbors, right, over in the MLW Radio Network
with Conan.
Yep, keeping it 100.
I like Disco, even though I've
never met him. I've never met him.
He says some stuff online that gets people riled up, whether it's controversial or whatever. But hey, there was the one time he had a sabbatical from WCW where he refused to put Jacqueline over or whatever. I think in WCW she was Miss Jackie or something like that. They wanted him to have a match with her and lose, and he refused, and they fired him. So he's doing the indies. I wrestled him in Baltimore. It was me and this wrestler, Earl the Pearl, who the promotion was MEWF at the time. Now it's eventually became MCW. Long story. But Earl the Pearl was like the local baby face, and he was over as fuck, and he had a dancing gimmick. So they teamed me up with him because we both did the dance gimmick against Disco, and I feel bad. I don't know who Disco's partner was at the time. But it was like this whole, it's this like whole schmaz thing, And I got to work Disco, and that was fun. It was the only time we got to touch in a ring, but
I'm curious how we had talked earlier about how you wrestled Scott Fowler and Jason Static, which I know those were at the top of your career highlight matches. But I've wrestled both Scott Fowler and I wrestled Jason Static a couple times down in OVW. But I'm curious who, like, you never wrestled Rich Swann, have you?
No, unfortunately, no.
I'm trying to think of, well, I guess, and it doesn't, Battle Royal doesn't, we talked about that before. The Battle Royal, I don't think counts as far
look. I'm going to correct you because I was in a Battle Royal with the Monkey Brothers, and I think that counts.
That does count. Well, here's what I was going to say. It counts as far as somebody you've worked. Like, for instance, I worked Colt Cabana before. He eliminated me from a Battle Royal. But I was in that. But if that's the case, I worked everybody on the OVW roster at that time because it was a full Battle Royal. Everybody was
hey, it counts, man.
But my point is, I don't even remember who I actually physically touched in the ring, right? Like, I know Colt was one of them, but and I know it was Charles. I've told that story before where he was backed up into me in the corner and I was just kind of stuck behind him. So if that counts as working somebody, but no, I was just curious who else. Maybe if you and I have worked similar people before.
Like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, like the Kevin Bacon game.
No, but not to upset Scott Fowler, but we both went over on him. No.
Let's play word association. Throw out a name, and I'll tell you if I worked them.
Oh man, Triple H.
No.
Yeah. JBL. You ever work? Yeah.
Because I consider doing I consider matches, schmazes, and battle royals as working with somebody. If you've connected in the ring,
and that's my question though. Do you consider battle royal if you worked someone in the battle royal, or if you were in the same match as them?
If you ran a spot in the battle royal, and did something with somebody in the battle royal, that's. Okay. Definitely, because you're in
quote
the
unquote. You're still in the same. Yeah,
you're trying to win against this person. To me,
I guess it's the same as if you were in a, like, for instance, we talked about that 6-man. You've done so many 6-man tags.
I'm so used to doing tag matches. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that they're, especially in a 6-man, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the match comes and goes, and there's someone you didn't actually work on the other team. Like, you could have just not been in the ring at the same time. Like, I'm sure that's happened in 6-man tag team matches.
Yeah, well, unless I was the one making a hot tag and I gave everybody one punch. Yeah. Then that counts. But yeah. Dude, I was in the Battle Royal. Fucking Boogie Woogie Man was in there.
That's so cool. That to me is just so cool.
I was so afraid to touch him. I was just like he almost fell over. I was like, it's a battle royal. I'm like, oh, please don't fall. I'm totally fucking breaking kayfabe. Like, dude, I was in there with dude, I was such a mark. It was like for WrestleCade, and they had their annual battle royal. And the things that would go on in those battle royals were so funny, but only the boys were in on it, the audience really wasn't in on it. And then, like, I smartened up Tracy, like, the whole schmoz that was going on. So, like, the next time around, she was like, what? Like, the entire BWO was in the Battle Royal, and somebody went up to Nova who didn't even bother taking off his sunglasses. Then they did the eye poke spot, and he's selling it like they poked his eye. Valentine and Beefcake are working over Shane Douglas, and they're, like, pulling his fingers apart. And Beefcake goes over and acts like he's sawing his hand in half, and he's like sounding like, just.
Oh man, that's awesome.
And there was one point where Colt Cabana had somebody backed up in the corner. He goes, Blue Meanie, punch this man in the penis. I do like a bolo punch, like, whoa, punch into the penis. So
that's awesome.
Just shit like that, it's goofy stuff like. I don't think I've ever really had a match with Colt Cabana, but hey, I was in Battle Royal, so I think that counts.
Yeah, well, I'm counting it for me, so definitely counts for you. I mean, he didn't even ask me to punch anyone in the penis. But I had already punched so many people in the penis that day before the show even started that it was overkill. Yeah, and that's only because where else am I going to punch them? I was in a locker room with people like Drew McIntyre. I punch straight forward, it's basically going to be in their penis. I'm not a tall man.
Your eye level.
Yeah.
Eye to eyes.
I remember driving, talk about like road stories. I remember when I was driving with those guys and Drew, it may have actually been right after the Battle Royal that I was just talking about. And because Drew was sleeping in the back and Stu and myself are driving. Hey, shout out to Stu Bennett, Wade Barrett, for, he's going to be 3 weeks in a row now with NXT.
Tremendous.
I know they're working out a deal. That's awesome for him. He's such a good dude, such a talented guy, and I'm glad to see him doing something like that.
He's got a great voice too.
He does too. Oh man. Yeah, you don't know that voice until you've heard him sing some Taylor Swift. But I digress.
Hey, I heard Steve Austin sing a Cher song, so
that's amazing. You definitely win on that one. But there was one time we're driving along, and I'm kind of like just venting about how I'm frustrated because of my height. In the real world, whatever, I'm fine. I'm 5'8". But in the wrestling world, I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, it doesn't matter how hard I'm working out. It doesn't matter how much muscle I'm packing on. There's just some things it's just not gonna,
right.
It's not gonna happen. And so Stu's like throwing out this idea. He's like, "Oh, you ever hear?" I won't do his voice, but
do it.
Oh, you ever hear? There's the I think it's in China, and they'll break your legs, and then they'll separate your legs. He's telling me this whole thing, and he's like, they'll separate your legs, and then and then eventually the bones grow back, and you'll be taller. And I'm like, yeah, man. And then I'm gonna Sid Vicious myself in the middle of the ring because my legs are gonna be so weak. Because I'm like this, and also I was like, no. And that it was at that moment that I realized I won't do everything for I will do anything for wrestling, but I won't do that.
Rivers Cuomo from Weezer did that.
Did he really?
He was born, one of his legs was shorter than the other. And
but that's to me an acceptable reason to do it, not because it's just like, brother, I can't get booked, like I'm going to break both my legs. And, but yes, I was just like, but I remember he like pitched that and he was dead serious too. He's like, hey, that could work for you, and I'm like, it could, but it won't.
Any good, we've been talking a lot about road trips. Any good road trip ribbing happen in those car rides?
I'm not thinking we really didn't, I don't know, ask them. Maybe there's one they never told me about that I don't know.
Did they uphold the rule that everybody stays awake on the ride?
We let Drew sleep. It was definitely after he was hungover from the night before. He was still, like we talked about, he was still drunk when we picked him up the next morning. That's how like late we were all out. And he was, I've told this before with the Battle Royal where everybody's just like going like, everyone could smell, I don't know if it was like Jack or tequila or something, but everybody was smelling it because it was just coming off of Drew. Oh, and I was like, who is it? Who is it? Who is sweating this out of the, but so we let him because he just seemed not well. So we kind of let him sleep it off. But no, it never really had that. There was a time when those guys went, I think when they went to Tampa and I was driving with, I think who else I was driving with. Some of the guys, it was like Andrew Vane and that guy Charles and Lupe, who actually ended up getting signed with WWE for a little bit, and then nothing ever happened with him. But there would be sometimes like we'd be there were like never really like ribs, but more like busting balls and stuff. I'm trying to, but I don't know with Stu and Drew for whatever reason we definitely bust balls for sure. But we never really did any ribbing. I certainly wasn't going to do any ribbing because I was low man on the totem pole.
Right.
No, I think the biggest rib that was maybe that I was driving a 2-door car and those two had to fit in it. I think that was the rib I was playing on them was that those guys had to somehow figure out how to be in that car.
Dude, I felt like the biggest piece of shit. Well, like not piece of shit. But I felt like the biggest idiot. Like, not idiot. I'll tell the story and then we'll figure out how I felt. But it's like right in the beginning of ECW. And I drove this car like from high school until like a couple months in ECW. I had a 1978 Dodge Aspen, white Dodge Aspen. Mm-hmm. And it looked like an unmarked cop car. So, you know.
Dude, those things, I hate I hate those.
Why?
Because I slow down when they're behind me.
Oh. But no.
And then I eventually let them pass, and I'm like, oh, it's just some old woman drive it like it's.
But those things were like like riding in a boat, and like it was so smooth. You hit a bump, and you just like you didn't even feel the bump. But and the cool thing about that car is my friend Justin from Farpoint Toys. Shout out to them. Shout out to Justin Penelope. His dad was a Lanc City police officer, and he gave me like a patch. ACPD patch, and I just put it on my windshield. So anytime I went to high school, I parked probably where I shouldn't be, and I would never get a ticket because I looked like an unmarked cop car.
That's
and I had
awesome.
the patch on my thing. But back to ECW, we go over to me, Raven, and Steve. We go over to the Cylinder of Sin, the Travelodge, and we're picking up Steve Austin.
Yeah, superstar Steve Austin. I think at that
superstar.
point.
Yes, superstar. Not stunning, but superstar. And when I had a car, and I had like 8 spare tires in my trunk. It's like I didn't have like the forethought, the thought to go, hey, I could probably just put these in the basement, or what if I get 4 flats at the same time?
I was gonna say, what were you driving over that you?
Yeah, and they were like, some were regular tires, some were snow tires. They came with the car.
I understand. As soon as you get into Steve Austin's neighborhood, the glass would break, and you'd have to drive over the. That was where
exactly.
Where is it? Who gets there first? There it is. Okay.
Oh, I thought you had a glass breaking sound effect.
No. No.
No,
I don't. Sorry.
So we go pick him up, and I felt like such a dick. He's like, I'll just put my gear in the trunk. I left up to open up my trunk, and there's no room for Austin's gear. And he's got a big ass Pullman too, like the kind of bag that you would take on the road if you're going on the road for like 2 months not going home.
Well, I guess that's what he was kind of used to, right?
Yeah. So I was like, God damn.
God damn, son.
So Steve gets in the back of my Dodge Aspen, and he's got his big ass bag on his fucking lap. Oh, and man. It's me, Steven Raven, and I just like felt like the biggest dick, And the funny thing about Steve Austin ECW, and when he first got there, he's like, I'm used to being a superstar and flown over the world in limousines. I come to work for ECW and have a guy in a Pinto pick me up at the airport or something like that, which like popped the crowd. He was shitting on the crowd, but they popped for it, and I popped, and then like. I was like, thank God I didn't pick him up from the airport. You would have been talking about my shitty Dodge Aspen. God damn. A big fat guy picked me up. I had 4 spare tires in the trunk of his car. And I had to put my bag on my lap. I would have been like that. That promo would have been about me if I had been the first guy to pick up Steve Austin at the airport. And then another funny thing, me, Stevie Raven, and Steve Austin go to Gino Steaks. And this time we're in Stevie's car. And we pull up, and there's like, for whatever reason, there's like 1 million police officers there. Mm-hmm. They were probably just there getting sandwiches or whatever. It was like late. It's after the show. Go there. And there's like, again, there's 1 million cops, and it's like an old town car Stevie bought from Tommy Dreamer. Really nice car, but we pull up, and Stevie puts the club on his wheel. Like, the club, the all old anti-theft fucking thing that I don't think they make anymore because people figured out you just got to saw the fucking steering wheel and pull it off. So he pops that thing on, and Steve also goes, he starts laughing. He's like, God damn, Stevie, you think that everybody's going to steal your car from all these cops and shit like that? Just funny stories like that, man. God damn.
That's awesome.
Just funny. There's so many cool stories like that that just pop into my head.
I had Wade Barrett on so says Shernoff.
That was great, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and is it a coincidence he's on that show and then immediately a month later? It's a coincidence.
Things happen on this show, and they go to WWE or AEW.
Yeah. But we were talking a little bit. And he just a little bit off air, and this may have even made it on air. But we're talking about the time when I got a flat tire, and we're driving, and it's me and Stu and Drew, and we're just. And I think there was another guy with us too, and because there was so much room in the car, and we're just like staring at this like a bunch of morons. None of us knew how to change the tire.
Really?
Yeah. And I'd never had a flat before. Like I knew.
How old were you?
This was 23.
Okay.
So I knew theoretically how to change a tire, right? Like I know you jack the car up. I get it. I got it.
Right.
But I had never physically changed a tire before.
Right.
So the first thing was I didn't know where my tire was in the car. And I'm like lifting up things in the trunk.
I had no problem. I had no such problem.
But no, we're like looking at this. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to do here. And I turned to them, and I guess so like Stu, I guess was in the same boat. He was probably he just turned 40. So he was he's like 4 years older than me. So, I'm looking to him, the elder in the car, and that man doesn't know how to do it. Drew, may have been sleeping. He doesn't know, who the hell knows what, but we're all just like kind of like staring at it. And eventually we worked it out, but we're just staring. But he brought that up, and that's making me think like, you're talking about like ribs and different things like that. Like
I've got
so many little stories that I bet if I sat down with the guys I was actually driving with, it would jog my memory so much of some of it, because I had totally forgotten that. And he, and he brought that up, and he's like, people are driving by, and I don't know that he even appreciated how ridiculous this must have looked. These two gigantic men and me on the side of the road, and they're looking at it going like, what? These people are not average person size. So imagine you're driving by, you don't know who they are. They weren't known yet. So you're just looking at these gigantic people. And this tiny car, like it looks like a clown car. Like it's ridiculous. But you were saying,
yeah. One time I was in WWE, and for some reason I was riding with Christian for that loop. Mm-hmm. Going there, I was riding with Christian, but for some reason Deborah Michael jumped in our car. I was like, all right. So we're trying to drive.
Yeah, you're going to turn that down. Right.
Yeah. No. So we're either driving to the next town or the TV hotel so we can leave for the next day.
Okay.
But we realize we're going in the wrong fucking direction. And Christian's driving, and we pull off the road, and we're trying to just find a place to pull a Yui. So he pulls down the side street somewhere in Massachusetts, flips a Yui, and the car front passenger side tire hits the curb and knocks the tire off the rim.
Oh,
it was like
shit.
It's like one of those 1 in a million type things. I've never seen that. I would expect it maybe from a bicycle, but not like a car.
Yeah, but oh man.
So we flip the Yui. You hear the thunk, and it's like, the tire flapping. We're like, oh shit, pull over. Hit the hazards and get out. I was like, oh shit. Tires off the thing. And like Christian was like, what do I do? It's like, do we call the rental car company for assistance or this or that and the other thing? I was like, fuck it, I'll change it. At that point in my life, I have changed my share of fucking tires, like traveling, between Al's and between Ohio and Atlantic City, Ohio, Philly, whatever. I had done my share of tire changing. I was like, fuck it, I'll change it. Don't worry about it. Don't call anybody. I go to open the trunk, and the rib on me, like with Steve Austin, all my spare tires, and the in the trunk was all of Deborah's bags. I was like, geez, how many bags do you need? So I got to work out just taking the bags out of the fucking thing, and I find it spare and change it over, and then throw it in, and then we make it. But like it was just another one of the situations where like you said you guys got a flat, and you're like just looking at like. Ooh, yeah. Like a couple monkeys just like, how do we change this tire? And I was in a similar situation where Christian was like, oh, what do I do? I was like, fuck it, I'll change it. And my hands are all fucking black from the fucking grease and shit like that. It's like,
what do you think the chances are when Deborah and Austin were married that there was a time where he pops the trunk and he goes, this looks like the fucking Blue Meanie's car back here.
That would be amazing.
He's trying to get his bag in there too, but
yeah. Goddamn.
Yep.
Dude, I love Austin. Dude, favorite rib. Like the reason why I said when you and the guys were driving, you Drew, we're all driving. I was like, was there any like rule about sleeping? It's like Al had the rule.
Oh yeah.
Nobody sleeps in the car.
Oh, it was it was a rule that was like I was talking when I was riding with those other guys. I never, ever slept in the car. Like I said, the only time someone slept in the car was Drew, and it was because, there really was no choice. The dude was hammered / hungover / exhausted, just wrestled 2 matches that night. Mm-hmm. It was, so we let him kind of just like doze off a little bit. We weren't gonna
there's like fun ribs where like Al had the no sleeping in the car rule. Mm. So like if he had a show from like Lima to like say Detroit, we would all the students, it would be like a class trip. All the students pile in the van. We're going up to Detroit, and on the way back, we're driving, and that's the rule: don't fall asleep in the car.
Sure.
And like one time, one of the fellow students, Rick Matrix, was up in the passenger seat. I was in the back. Al had like this, he's married with kids. He's got a minivan, so he fits us all in the minivan. Mm-hmm. So I'm in like in the middle, and Rick's up front. Al's driving. I forget who else was. Maybe Jason Campbell, whose car I ruined, and maybe Phyllis Lee.
For more on that, visit youtube.com/Mind of the Meanie and check out Meanie Toons episode 1.
Please do. Click like and subscribe. Yeah. So Rick falls asleep, and Al looks at me and he gives me a look like, huh? He's nudging over. I look over. He's sleeping. Al puts his hand over the dashboard and slowly raises it up, and I know what's coming. So as we're driving, there's a car pulled off to the side. Somebody who probably is changing their tire with the hazards on. Mm-hmm. Like we see this. Al raises his hand. As we're passing the car, Al slams his hand down on the dashboard and jerks the wheel, and we all go, ah! I think he got him, dude. I think he got him. And Matrix wakes up like, oh, what? And he's looking around. He looks in his rear view, and there's a car back there with his hazards on. They're like, the guy was changing his tire. I didn't see him. And for like an hour, Rick Matrix thought we had committed vehicular homicide.
That is amazing.
And then eventually we let him off. We let him in on the rib. But there will always be tricks like that. Somebody falls asleep. I always heard like the Steiners were pretty good ribbers. Driving like if you were in the passenger side seat, like Rick would roll down his window, reach up, and then pull the door open and the door in front of his seat.
When I would ride like with my friends when we were doing like my own promotion or something, like we had a show in West Virginia once and we were driving. So anytime, and we would just take, trips and stuff as friends. But my buddy Matt Mangle would always, there'd always be some sort of like rib going on. Like he would, we'd play a thing sometimes like if he was driving, all the windows would go down if it was like winter. And it was just like, I forget what would happen, but you didn't want to be the one to put your window up first.
Right.
He would always
it was like one of those Japanese game shows where they all sit in ice to see who taps out first, or something like that.
But he would also do the thing, if he was ever, you never wanted him sitting behind you because he would go and reach and grab your seatbelt and just randomly just go pull it back on you. And it was really good times. And then that man would also that man's ass would blow up as well. I gotta tell you, I don't care what it is. I don't care how much someone is willing to pay me. If someone said to me, someone said to me right now, hey, go here, you can stand in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania, but you have to take this 10-hour car ride with the Blue Meanie and Matt Mangle, I would just say there's no money in the world, no experience in the world that's worth. Because
we were brought up on war crimes.
All the stories you have told, I mean, I'm sure, I'm going to give you credit. I'm sure yours is worse, and I don't want to, assume that it's not. But
right.
But Mangles,
you're speaking from your experience.
From my experience, Mangles, my God, it was, that man would do it, and it was always like, nah, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? You want me to hurt myself and keep it in? Come on, what do you want me to do? Like, it was all like, and then he would like do it. He'd be like, oh, seal's broken. We're like, you can't, like, you broke the seal. It's not, he'd be like, oh, open season. But no, you can't, it's not open season if you're the one who did it. You can't, But,
dude, one time I was doing a show in Pittsburgh for Corey Graves' father. Mm-hmm. The promotion was, dude, I think I just found this. I think I just found the flyer on my Facebook flashback thing. But me, CJ O'Doyle, and Chris Crude, both great guys, and another wrestler, Chrissy Rivera, were in the car. And we had been driving from Philly to Pittsburgh. I think it was in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, where they filmed Slapshot, same town. And we're driving along. Like an event, you stop and eat. So I get like, a sandwich and some chips, barbecue chips or whatever. And you're driving along, and it's like an hour past, like when you ate, and I just get the bubble guts. And it's just like, my stomach's like, I'm like, ooh. Oh, man. So my instinct as a seasoned veteran of the car, a seasoned ribber of the car would be to turn up the heat and hit the window locks. And I would just, lift up and do the one cheek sneak.
Oh, just hotbox them.
It just, it's not, there's not even a drum roll. It's just straight up NASA launch. It's a, and I'm waiting for the cell. And Chris Crew goes, does somebody smell barbecue? Do you smell barbecue? And it was the chips I was farting out. My fart smelled like the barbecue potato chips. And, Crew goes, I smell barbecue. Oh, no, I smell barbecue. Because he realized it was my fart, and they went to roll down the windows, and I hit the window locks, and they're like, oh, no, I'm going 60, and you can't hop out in the middle of a highway,
So, yeah, because someone's almost like, oh, man, I'm getting hungry. And then they realize what it is. I had one time.
Not going anywhere?
One time, a bunch of my friends and I were hanging out at my house, and my friend Paul went in to use the bathroom. Not a big deal. Paul was like friends with all of us, but was kind of like, we'd only like just started hanging out with him. Like, he wasn't really like part of like the group. So like we would go easy on him. So for instance,
you were still meeting a representative.
Yeah. So like, for instance, things started smelling really bad, and I'm thinking to myself, and everybody, I think everyone, because we didn't, I didn't know, but everybody's kind of thinking like, Paul, like Paul's one of those guys, like you don't bust his balls. Like, he's such like a nice dude, and like,
yeah.
And we're all just kind of like, all right, look, the dude went in there. He obviously took a shit. It was obviously horrible. He must be so embarrassed. We're not rubbing this in. About an hour goes by, and your friend and mine, Calvin Tan, goes, man, how come nobody's saying anything about my gas? It wasn't Paul. Calvin had been blowing up for about an hour. And
fucking magician.
And yeah, right. No sound whatsoever. It was horrible. And all the rest of us thought that poor Paul had blown up that bathroom.
Yeah.
And we were trying to be like, dude, we feel so bad for him. We don't say anything. And meanwhile, this dude's just sneaking them out. And finally, he knows how bad it smells. The man finally outed himself because he couldn't understand why nobody was reacting to the smell. And we all were just like, we thought Paul did it and didn't want to give him a hard time. Paul's like, oh, what? Like, it was, oh man. Yeah. So.
And for my next magic trick, I'm going to make your nose hairs disappear.
Oh man, it was brutal. But so I had
it's always the one you don't expect.
Yeah.
It's just because Calvin's such a nice guy, well-mannered.
Calvin's a good guy, a very, very
great guy,
very, very mild-mannered guy. But hey, look, we all got to do it from time to time, and
I hate that I'm kind of known for that, but it's like almost like a badge of honor.
I mean, there are worse things I guess you could be known for,
I think it comes from my worship of my grandfather. He was a fucking sniper. Yes.
So it's like a level of pride. It's family pride.
So it's living up. It's like living up to the, if. Oh, he was in the military, but my dad was a 5-star general, and that would be like me wanting to go into the military and become a 5-star general.
Yeah.
My grandfather would just fart. Just and it was.
Well, I believe last week you told the story of the flapping.
His pajama pants were like a fucking schooner sail. It was just like, just floated. I was like, oh. I was like, oh, I was like, I almost knelt down like Excalibur. Yeah. Just like,
Do you think one day I too could?
It's like Revenge of the Nerds 2 when Booger meets his master and the guy lets out the long belch. He goes, master. Yeah, Booger meets I don't even know what the guy's name, but he lets out the biggest, longest burp, and Booger looks up to him like, oh, the chosen one.
Oh man, some might even say that it was the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be when it comes to farts. But Meanie, there's also the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be if you're looking for some of the best wrestling tees in the business. And I wanted to take an opportunity because I didn't know where else we were going to find this time to talk about them. Homage, homage, still not confirmed. Homage. They've got you covered if you're looking for those best T-shirts. All the styling, profiling, limousine riding looks from the rings of yesterday and today in super soft fabric and comfortable fits you can't get enough of. Mind of the Meanie listeners, listen up now because you can use the coupon code MEANIE for 20% off your first order at homage.com. That's HOMAGE.com. 20% off with the promo code MEANIE. We have a link pinned that'll take you directly to some of the WWE merchandise, but this 20% off will work on anything in the store. So go and check that out. Meanie, I know you have some of these shirts and you absolutely love them. And we're people who, we always talk about, you need that soft shirt. You got to have that. Do yourself a favor. It's all soft all the time over at Homage.
Yeah, man, just like our seltzers, they're all soft all the time. Homage or homage, whichever you prefer. When I say homage, I put my pinky up. But on homage.com, dude, I've been a customer there for years. And like you said, the shirts are so comfortable, great designs, great retro designs. If you go over to homage.com, you can get an old school ECW logo T-shirt, and it's a shirt I wear. It's in the rotation
in the proper colors.
In my opinion, the proper colors. I'm not a big fan of ECW purple, but it's in the a white ECW logo and a black shirt with red striping, outlining it. Another great shirt is the Dusty Rhodes shirt, which is a replica of a shirt Dusty used to wear back in the day. So if you always wanted to, if you ever saw Dusty Rhodes on the cover of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, one of the great after magazines and stuff like that, and you saw Dusty wearing their shirt, it's on homage.com or homage.com. But most importantly, they got a lot of great retro shirts. There's a really good SummerSlam shirt up there. They have the Austin 316 shirt. They have a Bam Bam Bigelow shirt with the Flames, which is a shirt I had as a fan. Great
all
fitting
different
shirts,
time
great
periods,
comfortable shirts.
all different time periods too, which is really nice. So no matter when you were a fan, you can look back and they're going to have something for you. Like we talked last week about, I didn't even know they had that until I was reading this ad read for them, and I saw that they had the old school Bret Hart T-shirt, which I had the tank top of that logo. That I remember seeing it for the first time on Bret Hart in the old catalog that would come in the mail, and I got that and I wore it on Halloween, and I dressed as Bret the Hitman Hart, and I looked at that and I said, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna let everybody know for my birthday, and then I'm gonna sit back and wait. And if it doesn't come on my birthday, the next day I'm ordering that myself because I definitely want that.
And you feel like you're showing off because you got the coolest shirt. And it's a new shirt, and people go, "Where'd you get it?" Well, now you can say, "I got that shirt at homage.com," and they got Harlem Heat, but we're pitching all the wrestling shirts. They have some great throwback shirts. They have. You can get a NBA Jam shirt with current rosters. Like, so if you're like a Sixers fan, there's Embiid. When Joel Embiid is on there. This is going to be my next purchase over at homage.com. They have a Philadelphia Spectrum T-shirt with the Sixers logo on it. How cool is that?
It's awesome.
Dude, being from Philly, I love the Spectrum. I have a couple Spectrum bricks in my house that I might have stolen from the property, and and I also have a Spectrum Wrestling shirt on of my own. But this is so cool on homage.com. You could get a Philadelphia Spectrum 76er shirt. They got sports. They got throwback sports, throwback everything.
So here's some of the brands that they have, just to give you an idea. Budweiser, Grateful Dead, NASA, Nickelodeon, Ninja Turtles, The Office, Skyline, Topps, and of course WWE. Those are some of the brands they have listed, but we already mentioned there's ECW, so with the WWE, you mentioned Harlem Heat, comes all the rights to ECW and NWA prior to, the WCW days, like you're talking about Dusty Rhodes with that shirt. So many, you can go into their TV and movie section. I'm looking, they've got a Nick at Night shirt.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So many awesome. There's Ren and Stimpy. So many great shirts over there at homage.com, homage.com. And again, make sure that you use the promo code Meanie for 20%. You can follow, if you want to follow a link directly to the wrestling merchandise, you can find that pinned on our Twitter at Mind of the Meanie and at Blue Meanie, BWO.
Pinned to the top of the page.
And not at mine because I just realized I didn't do it. So maybe I'll try and remember to do that. But yeah, so again, go to homage.com, promo code Meanie. Save yourself 20% off your first order.
But seriously, though, I know we're not in a commercial anymore, but seriously, go. If you see a shirt on there now, go and get it, because I got a really cool Terry Funk shirt from them. Terry Funk as the devil, and it says, "I'm a funker." I bought it, and then I went to read the ad. I was like, "Oh, let me promote it." It's not there anymore. So they switch out shirts here and there. So if you see a shirt now, get it, because it might not be there next time.
So what I have here is a Terry Funk LJN figure.
Yeah. For the folks watching at home.
Yes. This has been sitting on I'm trying to look at what it says here. Like printed on the back. Oh, Titan Sports. I was like, what is that? That's not WWF. It's Titan Sports. 1986 LJN.
You silly.
I bought this at I don't know when I got this, because I didn't have it when I was like really young. I think I got it at like a flea market sale or something like that. And I looked at it and I was like, dude, I'll grab this. It's old school Terry Funk, but it was sitting over. I've been cleaning out my basement, and I'm down here in the basement right now recording this because we're doing a late night show. And I was like, I've got all this stuff still set up from when we did alternative commentary. I've got these shelves. I'm like, I got to put something on the shelf. And there he was, sitting on top of a bin. And I said, you know what? I'll put Terry Funk up there. I'll put the Funker with no accessories. But yeah, that's...
Dude, I told you my first night in, he got set on fire, stuff like that. And he went away for a little bit, but then he came back to ECW. And I'd been ECW for a little bit, and he came back for a show, and I'm sitting there getting dressed, got my makeup. I apologize if I told the story already, but you just reminded me.
No, it's
and
fine.
Dreamer comes over, grabs me by the arm, doesn't say a word, and pulls me. I'm like, I get up, and I'm following him. He's like leading me like a child, and he takes me over to Terry Funk because he said Terry Funk wanted to talk to me. He goes, Blue Meanie, love the gimmick. You should go out to a junkyard and be the Blue Meanie, buy a blue car, a big blue piece of shit car, and put BM on the side of it. And you drive up to the building, people are like, look at Blue Meanie in that blue car with BM on the side, and stuff like that. It's just like when one of the greatest of all time gave you the idea, I probably would have done it, but I was broke. But just go to and Philly's got tons of junkyards, where you could just buy a shitty old beat up car.
Sure.
I probably should. I wish I could have. I should have done it, but when the man says to do it, you do it.
Yeah.
I feel like I dropped the ball. I feel incomplete.
There's still time, Meanie. You can still do this and make him.
I've
proud
had
of you.
shitty cars, but whether I knew it or not, I hate buying a car because I always feel like I'm going to get fucked.
Yeah.
There's like 2 times in my life I really got fucked on a car, and I feel so bad. I just like when you're a struggling wrestler, and you need a car to get the bookings, and you borrow money from somebody, and you buy a car, and it's a fucking lemon. You put like $5,000 into a car, and then it just turns out to be fucking scrap, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And you just want to find a person and just fucking flog them to death.
I had the last car that I had, I leased, and thank God I did because it was garbage. Like it just like fell. It was like falling apart from as soon as I drove off the lot. Like I could never. I got out of the lease early because I was just like, this car is a freaking mess, and like it just was not. It was not put together right. But yeah, no, it's. There's still time though to get that blue car. I think it can. I think it can happen for you.
I'll drive it
you
down
gotta
to
do it for the
Double Cross
funker.
Ranch. Yeah, Terry, I did it, and then it just dies on his lawn.
Okay.
Dude, one time, you know how we had Tommy Avalone on?
Yes.
A couple episodes ago.
It was a good time.
Twice.
Check that out in the archives
Yes.
over at mindofthemeanie.com.
Twice, I drove a car over to his house to go. One time it was for his Halloween party, and the other time it was for New Year's. And both times, my car died in front of his house. Well, and to be fair, the one car was like a car I had like for like 13 years. It was like a Chevy Lumina.
Yeah.
I drove that. Like if I get a car, I drive it till it fucking dies, right? But I had that car for like 13 years, and I knew going over the bridge to Jersey, I was like, oh man, this might not make it back. And like we got to his house, and then we went to leave, and I was like, oh, she's dead. And then the other time I got this is the way it fucking burns me. I got ripped off on somebody talked me into fucking buying this PT Cruiser off of their friend. And I got the car, and there's like always problems with it overheating, and there's radiator problems and shit like that. And then that fucking thing died right in front of Tommy's house. So I was like, dude, next time I'm taking a cab to your house. I don't care how much it costs, but
My first car that I had was actually hand-me-down from my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And I would drive my sister to school, and it got to a point where she was just like, please just let me out like over here before we pull up, because that car, you knew from a mile away it was coming. I drove that thing into the ground, literally. It was, I had my old buddy Noah. He was a big boy, about 6'4", big dude. And I just felt like one time, like he sat in the passenger seat, and I think it just rode a little too low at that point, and that was the end. But it would just make the worst sounds. But I was just like, dude, I can't. I'm not getting it fixed. It's, it's like it's still running. So we're going to do it. And my sister was so embarrassed by that. She'd just be like, just drop me off over here. I don't want to.
This sounds like an 80s movie plot. Like,
yeah.
Like the opening of a 80s movie, or just let me off here,
Yep. But it was
actually my favorite 80s movie is 3 O'Clock High, and the nerdy brothers driving the sister to school in the family car and stuff like that.
See, I look at it as it was like a precursor to when I drive my daughter to school, and when she's like in high school, and she is like, just drop me off. I don't want to be like, don't pull me up, and then I'll be like pulling her up, and I'll be yelling like, I love you, out the window just to embarrass her.
Did you ever see the video of the dad who met his son at the bus stop, coming home from school, and he dressed up in some goofy costume every single day? Was
it the dad? I think it was like his older brother or something.
Maybe.
Or something.
But either way, it's a
it
great rib.
Dad.
It was a great rib.
That's awesome, yeah.
Dude, my first car was a family heirloom. It was a 1978 Buick Regal, blue, which I wish that car would have lasted till ECW, so I could have just impressed Terry Funk. But we called it the Sporty Regal. It's a sporty car for its time. But it was my Aunt Judy's, then it was my cousin Jimmy's, and Jimmy gave it, I got it hand me down. And it's like a piece of shit. Like, to keep the driver's side seat up, you had to put like a piece of 2x4 in the crook of the back of the car, so the car didn't, didn't totally lay back. And that car lasted. I think that died on my. I said that the furthest I'd been away from home. I'm tying all these stories together. It's great. It was like my first time really far away from home was driving to New York, and on the way back home it just overheated and just fucking died. And then I got the Dodge Aspen, and we did a show in Reading for ECW, and me and Steve were driving back to Philly from Reading, and for whatever reason you heard a pop and just pulled over, and it's like shit. And we're like, what the fuck do we do? And we didn't have cell phones. Mm-hmm. There wasn't that. And we're like, walk down this hill to like see if there's like a building nearby we could go call somebody. And just by happenstance, Raven drives by in his car, pulls over and goes, guys, you all right? And we're like, oh my God. And we're running towards him like he's our savior. You saved our lives. And maybe like 15 minutes, man. We're like, oh my God. Like, because we're two big putzes. We're like, oh my God, Raven, you're our savior. And he drove us back, and I never saw that car again. It just like, I went to go back to get it towed, and somebody had towed it, and I called the cops, and they're like, we have no record of this car. And it's like, yeah, they probably sold it for scraps and fucking kept it and shit like that.
Oh man.
With my 4 spare tires.
I got a fun ECW road story type thing. So I was going to, I don't remember what show it was. I think it was house show maybe. And I was going with Bill Apter. And Bill was going, because sometimes I would go, and I was, little did I know I was following in your footsteps as helping him with camera equipment. So I'm going with Bill. We're driving along, and all of a sudden, it's Bubba, and Bubba's driving. Bubba Ray Dudley, as though anybody needed to know who I was talking about when I said Bubba. Right. Although I could have been Iron Sheik, calling, God.
Selling 8x10s to a state trooper or something.
Oh, man. I got a picture in my head that I can't get out. But and the whole thing's not even in the room yet. But no, so Bubba Ray Dudley is driving, and Tommy Dreamer is in the passenger seat, and I didn't know at the time, but Francine was in the back seat. And so they're kind of like they're driving along, and Bill's honking at them, and they're like waving, and so I don't know, they kind of motion, and we pull off somewhere to a rest stop to get something to eat. I want to say it was a McDonald's or a Wendy's or something like that.
Did he treat you to ice cream too?
No. But I think I was kind of like I didn't want to like sit there and like eat in front of anyone. So I was like, I don't know. I was all kind of like weird about it. So I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't need to eat anything, because I didn't want to be like, yeah, I'll get a double, whatever. But so they go, and so they order, and we all sit down, and we're all just kind of like talking, whatever. And Bubba keeps like looking over, like, where's this food?
Right.
And finally, like, he like goes up and he asks, like, yeah, we ordered a thing. They're like, oh, yeah, it's coming. Now, this is, like I said, I think it was like a Wendy's. So this isn't like you're expecting this food momentarily, as soon as you order it.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget it where Bubba goes up and asks where the food is. And they're like, oh, we're getting it for you. And he just starts almost like like the Bill Alfonso right down the middle, starts
listen here, Daddy.
Yeah, but he starts like slamming like it was the back of one hand into the palm of the other, and he's going 1/2 hour.
Yeah.
1/2 hour. And he's like, he's not yelling at them in like a dickish way. He's yelling at them in like first of all, he's Bubba Ray Dudley. He's an imposing figure.
Second of all, it's a fast food.
It's a fast food. And we've been sitting there for a half hour on our way to the show. And I say we, like, I had to work that night, and, but I'm sitting back here, and to me, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened, because I'm 15 years old, and I have a story about, these guys that I can tell, which honestly I haven't told until today, other than to like, my friends, but I'll never forget the cadence of his voice of just the 1/2 hour and just yelling at them. And eventually they gave him something that wasn't even like the proper sandwich. And he was just so hot about it. And it was just, and then we just left and that was that.
That was his version of the Dairy Queen massacre, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh God.
I won't get into it, but look it up on YouTube.
I was gonna say that's what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, Jim Cornette.
Cornette. Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah, Cornette, Jericho, Storm, Ron Head.
It did not get that bad.
No,
I'll tell you that much. It did not get that bad. I think the worst it got was him yelling 1/2 hour. I've been waiting for this food, but it's just I never forget just the cadence of it. You know, but that was the closest to an ECW road story that I can get because it literally began on the road.
It's pretty cool how Bill pretty much is like the one constant we have in our love for wrestling. Growing up watching, reading the magazines, seeing him on TV, watching the Lord of the Rings VHSs.
He is the common thread for so many people's careers. He's the George Napolitano.
He needs to be in a Hall of Fame. He needs to be in some kind of Hall of Fame.
He does. And we talked about this before, and I vaguely remember you like seeing online years ago, like maybe even before I like met you, like you pushing for that. And he eventually made it into what a lot of people consider the real Hall of Fame, which is, Dave Meltzer's Hall of Fame, Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I see your eyes rolling for those who aren't on Patreon.
No, look.
No. I'm saying I don't think that's the real.
I thought you were going to say the one in Waterloo, Iowa.
Oh,
the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Waterloo, where people say that's the real one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But no,
and then
listen,
I was like,
But the thing is, the
Stonewash Jeans Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Oh man, he is a fashion plate for sure. But
paper plate.
Oh, Meltzer. I love when I see things on Twitter.
I like Dave. I love.
Like I said, I've only met him. I've only been in the room with him 3 times that I know of, and one of those times was when he stood directly in front of me for no good reason whatsoever. Except for the fact that I guess Hangman was still in his trunks, and up on the stage.
Hey, Sailor.
I see him post these things and I know I'm biased from being such a fan of like Conrad's podcast, where basically everybody and Conrad's such a huge fan of Meltzer's work and everything, and everybody that Conrad does a show with hates Dave Meltzer, and it's a running gag in a lot of ways. But I'll see him like post these things where like he posts it with such like backed up by such knowledge. Like you would think that there's like a confirmed, like I have a confirmed fact that this is going to happen, but I've also heard it may not. Like that's not a thing. That's not a
filler.
thing.
That's empty calories right there.
Yeah.
That's just.
And I see these things, and it irritates me. But the only real heat that I have with him is that that son of a bitch would not give us a star rating for Meanie Toons. And I asked him multiple times, and people retweeted it, and he kayfabed the hell out of it. And I found that to be offensive to the point where I feel like he needs to make an appearance in a future Meanie Toons, but he's not going to.
There's a pet peeve of mine where, like, I'll be following somebody and they might not follow me back, but like I'll constantly say things to pop them or say something positive, shit like that. And then you look through their feed and they're only replying to people who say mean shit to them.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing?
Hey man, I'm trying to put you over. I'm trying to make you laugh, pop, whatever. Yeah. Not a fucking peep.
Come on,
but this guy says your work sucks, and then, well, listen here, motherfucker. Well,
yeah.
Jesus Christ, you know. But
Nova.
Yeah.
But the no, but, yeah. It's look. I mean, Meltzer's an interesting follow on. I just the reality is, no matter how sincere he is, you know that he was worked by the boys for so long, so many times. Oh, yeah. You just know he was. So the thing is, you look at it and you take what he says with a grain of salt. The problem is, I feel like he doesn't, and this is just an opinion based on, nothing. So perfect for talking about Dave Meltzer. But I feel like this is a guy who doesn't understand the weight of his words. Right. And the gravity of a report he could put out. And then also, I've never liked, he's anytime I ever read any of the stuff he had said, and a lot of it I first heard about through Conrad's shows where they would go back and talk about some of the things he would say about like Sable and things he would say about BlueDust. And like, it's one thing to critique, because I do on So Says Shernoff, it's a satirical wrestling news show, although it's become more me bitching about how no one wears masks, but it's satire, and I'll make jokes about things and I'll poke a little fun, but I've never he attacks these people personally, the things he would say about their physical appearance. And it's like, that's uncalled for as far as I'm concerned. And I know nowadays that would never fly, and I know the times were different. But just to be calling someone out, like, it's one thing you'd be like, okay, their match was terrible. Like, all right, that's your job, right? That's your job to critique it. Not, even though you couldn't do it yourself, it's still your job to critique it. Right. But to just comment on the person's physical appearance, like, it's, I don't know. So that's, it kind of makes me think about the person in general, but whatever.
But to add to your thing, he's a reporter, right? Mm-hmm. Journalist, reporter. Okay. Now, for instance, my match with you just brought up BlueDust, and I just brought back a memory. Mm-hmm. And like me and BlueDust had the match at St. Valentine's Massacre. Yep. BlueDust versus BlueDust. And we were limited going into that match because Dustin's back was tore the fuck up. Right. To the point where, we go in, like when you do a pay-per-view, I don't know if they still have it, but back then there was a room called the Finish Room. Mm-hmm. Where they pull you aside with your producer and go over the details. And BlueDust looks at Bruce and goes, Bruce, I'll give you what I can, but my back is tore the fuck up. And he's like, do whatever you can, right? So, there's points in the match where I purposely, kind of did, a stalling tactic. Like, I would bump out of the ring, walk halfway up the aisle, walk back. Just because I knew his back was fucked up. I was still trying to get heat for looking like a pussy for trying to walk away and then come back. I'm still trying to tell a story so Dustin didn't have to do as much because his fucking back hurt. And then you go and hear reviews of the match, and Meltzer just totally fucking shit the bed on it, right? Mm-hmm. Fucking tore it apart. Shitty match, to -1, whatever. Whatever he said. Now, any journalist or reporter in any line of work, mostly sports, I say we're a sport because it's just as physical, right? like if ESPN and somebody underperformed in the thing, they were like, well, so and so pulled a hamstring during the match, blah 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 blah.
Right.
As blah, blah, blah. It would have been something if, like, Meltzer could have said, well, the match was shortened due to, like a good reporter would ask questions like, and report the facts. Like, Dustin's back was fucking fucked up. Yeah. Hence why they, instead of 12 minutes, they had 8 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Given the circumstances, I'll give it 2 stars, or something like that.
Or even if it was just like, look, I didn't like it, but you have to imagine what the match could have been had Dustin not been impaired by his back injury, and obviously they were working around that. Unfortunately, all those circumstances led to a match that I found less than desirable. Right? Like there are ways, and I'm hijacking what you're saying, but I agree with you. There are ways that it could have been done. But I don't think he's a reporter. I don't think he's a journalist. I wish I knew which episode it was because I would plug it. So go watch every single So Shernoff until you find it. But I did a whole segment on him. It was on WrestleMania where he did a tweet shitting on a match that was still in progress. And you're like, well, how would you know if the match was good if you're too busy tweeting out? Where you could have missed a great part of the match. Look at you knowing about my show. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I remember on one, and I guess it was that one. Yeah, but I said he's an opinionist, which is fine, but don't present yourself as a journalist,
right?
Because he is a guy who gives his opinion, and that is 100% fine.
He's a pundit.
Right, until you're saying, well, I'm a journalist and here's the real report. So, yeah, but
and to
thanks for watching the show, by the way.
I do.
I really appreciate that. It was like when I first met Nyla Rose. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hi, I'm Josh Shernoff. She's like, oh yeah. She's like, no, I watch your show. And she's like, # this is Jerry Lynn. And my first thought was, oh my God, I hope I didn't say anything bad about Nyla Rose or any like wrestler at that point. Cause instantly I'm going, I didn't think anyone watched. Like I thought some fans, I'm like, I didn't think anyone in the business watched it. And I like panicked, but it was very, very cool. So it's very, very humbling when I know that to hear that you're such an enormous fan of mine. You buy my merch,
Yeah. Dude, I support the cause, man.
Look, you're the man.
I love, I shop local.
Yeah.
I support, it's one of the reasons why I got the idea to, say, hey, let's do a podcast together, But with Dave, I had a thought and it fucking disappeared in the fucking ether and I was about to
That's my bad.
I was about to dunk on you. No, not dunk on him, but. Here it is.
Here we go.
Dude, I am so glad NXT is possibly going to Tuesdays.
Yes.
This fucking fuck with their bullshit Wednesday night war that isn't a fucking Wednesday night war. It's not a fucking war. Okay. It's not a war.
No.
Dude, I wish every morning I wake up in the morning, roll out of bed, I kiss Mrs. Meanie goodbye, because I'm going downstairs and give her room to sleep. I go in the bathroom, I take a shit, and then I go downstairs. I have
you kiss her goodbye because every morning you go to take a shit and you know that there's a chance that this might be the shit that takes you out. So,
like the guy in The Sopranos who died on the fucking bowl. I go downstairs. I have my cereal. I have my cold brew. And I watch YouTube videos, and there was this Eric Bischoff video. It was just put up in the last couple days, like yesterday or something.
Oh, his
the mini clips from the podcast where they put up a graphic and you had the audio over it.
Yeah.
Which you could probably catch at adfreeshows.com. I love Conrad.
Yeah, adfreeshows.com. You could also go, if you're a top guy over there, I believe is what they call it, you'd get to sit in on some great Q&As like the one they had with the Blue Meanie.
Which went 3 hours. I was like, how long do you usually go?
That's what you do.
2.5 hours in. I was like, how long do you usually go? About an hour. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But Bischoff went on. He said it much more, and like he has more power to say it's not a fucking war, right. And like most numbers lie, you know, and stuff like that. And going into like he broke it down way better. Go into you know, the Eric Bischoff 83 Weeks YouTube and look up the video, and it's like a photo of him from Road Wild, but he talks about the Wednesday Night War, and it's like it's not a war. Right. And when he said it, I kind of did a fist pump. I was like, yeah. Finally, somebody else said it. You know, it's not a fucking war.
But it's also, you have Meltzer and his buddy. What the hell's his name? I can't think of his name.
Brian Alvarez.
Brian Alvarez, yeah. And I always worry that I'm going to like mix it up with Alex Marvez, and Alex Marvez is one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Alex Marvez is the fucking man.
He is just such a good dude that I never want to inadvertently say his name when I'm talking about the other one.
Well, that happened. Bischoff was going off about Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Yeah.
And he kept calling him Marvez. Alex Marvez.
It just kind of get, you know, and
in the clip they keep putting in parentheses, he means Brian Alvarez. Because I watch all those clips, just, you know, as like little cliff notes to prepare me for my day.
Yeah. Now, I've never met Brian Alvarez. Alex Marvez, I have met numerous times and have had great conversation. Like, he was one of the guys very early on when I was, I felt welcomed into the AEW locker room. He was one of those people. He and I sat and had like a conversation that had nothing to do with wrestling.
Yeah.
And he even said at the end of it, I said to him, I was like, hey man, it was great talking to you and getting to know you. And he was like, yeah, he's like, it's so nice to sometimes just talk to somebody about life, like outside of wrestling. And it really was like, I walked away from it feeling so comfortable because, you know, and now obviously I haven't seen him in 6 months since, you know, I've been there, but, has always just been such a good guy to spend time with, and to bump into when I'm there. But no, what I was going to say is, you know, you've got with the Wednesday Night Wars in quotes, you know, you have, Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer, who are just constantly apologizing for any time that AEW didn't win, right? Or they'd be like, oh, but you got to check out but what about the demos, which we always talk about the demos. And Jericho,
which I have muted on Twitter.
Yeah, you muted demos?
I muted demos. I muted 18 to 49 demographics. I muted all those fucking words.
It's so annoying. And the thing, and
muted Nielsen.
Jericho took that and has sold a bunch of shirts, and he's now the demo god, and I think it's awesome.
Well, Jericho's a genius.
Oh God, yeah. We could do another 3
I
hours
mean that wholeheartedly.
That.
He's a fucking genius. I mean, he is the guy that look to have longevity and reinvent yourself and prevent burnout.
Yeah. No,
you know, when wrestling might get a little tough, he's got Fozzy. You know, when Fozzy's on, he goes back to wrestling. Hey, I'm going to write a book. Hey, I'm going to do a show. You know,
no, he's just
he's the ultimate.
Yeah,
he's the ultimate showman.
I think, like, I truly believe when it all comes down to it, like, people are going to look back and he's going to have to be up there as one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. When you factor every little bit of something in, the fact that he has never become a nostalgia act, not that, and we've talked about this early on in the show. I remember we talked about this. Not that there's anything wrong with being a nostalgia act. What it means is you were very, very successful at what you did at a point in your career, and so successful that years later people will pay to see it still. So that's not a negative.
Right.
But it is extra impressive that he is able to, because people would pay in a heartbeat to see, you know, the never ever and that kind of, you know, people would pay in a heartbeat to see that. And that would be the nostalgia act. Instead, here he is. Now he's the demo god, the champion, you know, he's doing like, he's just reinvented himself. And when he was doing the list in WWE, you're thinking to yourself, you know, in the back of your mind, you're like, hey, how did he pull this off? But what a great way to go out in your career. One last reinvention. And then, no shit, man. He had like 6 more since then. So it's crazy.
He's had different eras. Mm-hmm. You know, like wrestling itself has had eras like the Bruno era, Hogan era, Stone Cold era, Cena era. But Chris Jericho by himself has had different eras from like
Lionheart, role model.
The Lionheart era, Monday Night Jericho era.
Yeah, like the role model man of 1,004 holds kind of time period. Yeah,
the conspiracy theorist victim.
Mm-hmm. And then Y2J.
The Y2J era, Y2J era, like all these different eras. I mean, people will be lucky to have one era.
He had the time when he started wearing a suit, using large words and stuff like that. Then from there, he was
kind of like the new Nick Bockwinkel in that sense. But he says he based it off of
that was Nick Bockwinkel. I'll never forget that. I forget what it was. I said I'll never forget, and then I forgot part of it. But I always remember one promo where he was like, nobody else has my something, my cunning, my
intellect.
Yes, it was like, he was awesome. But Jericho went from having like that time, like you said, like the Nick Bockwinkel style type thing. And
even though he credited No Country for Old Men.
For Old Men, yes. I couldn't remember. I was going to say, but I couldn't remember what it was.
But he always reminded me of Nick Bockwinkel.
Yeah.
Which is a compliment, the highest compliment. Nick Bockwinkel was one of the best wrestlers nobody talks about.
But then from there, he was doing this thing where it was like, he got the word "it" over. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then he went from there to having the list of Jericho and doing that stuff with Kevin Owens, which was amazing. And then you're like, what idiot? Yeah. And then what are you going to get out of, you're like, okay, he's going, then he went to Japan and had the, Painmaker, which was like, you're like, okay, this is a different side of Jericho. So then you're like, I guess that's what's coming to AEW. But then it's like, no, we're not sure exactly what we're going to get. And then right off the bat, it was the one who he deserved a thank you. That was his thing, if you remember originally, was that he wanted a thank you. Then he wins the title, cuts his whole promo about how I don't even need your thank you. And then boom, a little bit of the bubbly. Right. And we're off to the races with a whole new thing. And you get this little bit of the bubbly. Then he's freaking Le Champion, which was like, what are you doing? And now the Demo God thing. So it's like...
My favorite thing is after he won the world title, the next day he announced himself as the longest reigning AEW champion. Oh, and
they did a video package where they also referred to him as the youngest AEW champion in history and longest reigning and all that. Yeah, it was amazing.
And then they did the parody to the Cody Rhodes video where Cody's sitting in his kitchen. He gets up and Brandy says something, walks up. And they did him and Sammy Guevara. Sammy was his Brandy. It was so fucking good.
It was so good. And
I love Chris Jericho.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't just out ourselves as a bunch of Chris Jericho fans right there. But I'm unapologetic. And you know what? I referenced something about Halloween and you earlier, but I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to share the photo on a Halloween episode. But I was looking last year. I was doing a Halloween themed episode of So Says Shernoff, and I had the opening credits thing, and I had a bunch of pictures, and I wanted to find old pictures of me dressed as people, as wrestlers for Halloween. I've mentioned I dressed as Bret Hart. I mentioned that I dressed as Al Snow at one point. Then years later, I actually was sitting next to Al Snow on Halloween and did not dress up. And my mom goes, "Did you tell him that you dressed as him?" And I said, "Absolutely not." I did not tell him that. So I had asked my mom, I said, "Hey, can you find like pictures of me as a kid? Like all these, because I dressed as so many different wrestlers. I was Doink the Clown in elementary school. Like, yeah, all these different things. Can I find them?" She finds this one that she brings out, and it's me. I know exactly when it had to have been. It was 1999, Halloween of 1999. It's me dressed as Chris Jericho. And I am wearing, it's a black t-shirt that has like white athletic tape taped to say Y2J, because he debuted 2 months earlier. So as Y2J, but I've got the shiny shirt and I'm wearing, some sort of like pleather pants or something. And I've got the long blonde hair with the ponytail up top, and I'm doing, which was a wig.
The poodle do.
Yeah. But I'm doing that. And So I have that picture. I have no recollection of dressing as Chris Jericho for Halloween. Had you asked me before, did you ever dress as Chris Jericho? I would have absolutely said, no, I never did. No recollection. My mom's like, she's like, I don't remember you ever dressing like this for Halloween. And this is what I would have been in 11th grade.
Was this like in the middle of a long road trip and you just lost sense of time?
Apparently.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at another thing I had no recollection of. My good friend at the time, Jarrett, is a heavier set kid. And wouldn't you know, in that picture, that man is dressed as the Blue Meanie. He has a homemade Job Squad shirt.
That's awesome.
And his hair is blue, and he's dressed as the Blue Meanie. And I found this picture last year, which I was like, that's pretty cool, because now I've had the opportunity to be backstage with Chris Jericho. I've had the opportunity to interview the Blue Meanie. Well, now, fast forward another year, and it just blows my mind that, you know, like thinking back to a point where I was like such a fan that like me and my buddy, I'm like, I'll be Jericho, you'll be Blue Meanie. And it's like, you know, like we've talked about before, like if you're going to dress as someone for Halloween, you're a fan of them. Like he wasn't just like, I'll pick the Blue Meanie. Why not? It's like, no, because it's the Blue Meanie. And I've talked about how when I was at WrestleMania and we went nuts when you came out because you were like, you're our hometown hero, you know? And so it's just so cool. So that was the thing that was just, I'm going to share that picture with you as it's, you know, Halloween time. But yeah, apparently dressed as Chris Jericho for Halloween. So here I am in 1999, 21 years ago. I had a buddy dressed as the Blue Meanie, and I dressed as Chris Jericho. 21 years later, I get to talk to the actual Blue Meanie about Chris Jericho. So
that's amazing.
That's pretty fun for me.
And Chris Jericho had a Ralphus, which I think was, you know, kind of a Blue Meanie character.
Oh, with the cutoff shirt? Come on.
Half shirt and short shorts with the handwritten shit.
It had to, like, I've never, can I be honest with you? I never thought about that until now.
Yeah.
But you're saying that, and I'm
I thought about it as soon as I saw it.
Bro, I'm sure.
Hey, I'm available.
You're like, what is this? Me in 40 years?
That guy.
Ralphus. Man.
Apparently
Now that I
he was
think about it, I should have had, I mean, no offense to the Blue Meanie, but I should have had my buddy dress as Ralphus if I was, but you know what? It was like a year later. Ralphus was a thing of the past. But
yeah.
Hey, so
yes,
unbelievably, we still have all of our Patreon people on here still watching this.
Tremendous.
Everybody's
still awake?
I was going to say, they all fell asleep, and they're going to wake up and be like, oh my God, how are they still going? But I do want to, you know, I thought it could be a good time to reach out to them for an Ask Meanie.
Ask me anything.
James Sorensen says, do you have any questions for me? How are you still awake?
Favorite salad dressing? I don't know.
Yeah. But no, I think, Meanie, if you're cool for it, it's time to ask Meanie anything.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
It's time to ask Meanie anything.
All right.
As Meanie falls down the stairs.
So let's see. What can we find? Wait. Okay, Andy Slichter says the Flyers are also still going, heading into the second overtime. Holy crap!
Jesus Christ! We better stay on the air until they win.
Hopefully. Are so we're not ruining things for them anymore, like we were in the start of this.
I'm afraid to move now.
Okay, here you go. Devin Miller with a question. Since we're at the anniversary of it, what do you guys think will be the impact of the All-In event 5 or 10 years from now? That's a good question.
Dude, I said, like, when we were at the first StarCast, I said it was very unique that, you know, the first ever wrestling pay-per-view was the WWF Wrestling Classic, which was in Chicago, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Flash forward all those years later, and the first, like, independently run pay-per-view, it was like there was no company. It was just 3 dudes running the show, Cody and the Bucks.
Yeah.
Having their first pay-per-view in Chicago. And 2 years later, it's starting to show up in the, Facebook flashback and all these flashbacks,
right?
Social media. It'll be look back at even 2 years ago, a pivotal moment to show that you can actually do something independent of a company.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of Ring of Honor talent on there, but they had like Rey Mysterio, all that stuff, and stuff like that. But it was they drew well over 10,000 people, and that's really good. That's very significant. So 10 years from now, when they have the anniversary show, I guess every year they're gonna have a show at that building. They're gonna have an all in or all out in that building every year.
Missing out on this year, unfortunately.
Right,
but
right.
That was I know that was the
this year's the mulligan,
Yeah.
But yeah, 10 years from now, hopefully they're still on AEW, and hopefully they've made a whole bunch of new stars and stuff like that.
And I think that's something when you look 5-10 years from now. I think that I whistled while I talked there.
Are you Dan Rather?
Yeah. I think when you look 5-10 years from now.
Yeah.
I think everyone will look back on it. It depends on where AEW is. Like you said, hopefully they're still in AEW. I think there will be. I think AEW is going to be around for a long time. At the same time, you look at all these other promotions outside of the WWE that really were only there for a cup of coffee.
Right.
Even ECW, as monumental as ECW was, right. You're talking 6 years?
8.
8 years? If you, I'm going from extreme.
Well, yeah.
So I guess
you got to include Eastern.
Okay, so you include, yeah, you would. And I mean WCW again. I guess it depends. Are you looking at Jim Crockett Promotions, and where do you draw the line? But if you look at strictly from Ted Turner, not a very long time. Not even a decade. I don't believe.
No.
So and it's amazing looking back and how short it was, but I think we're in a different time now, and I think, obviously we're both fans of their product, and I think, hopefully they'll continue in a positive direction. But I think that if they are where I know they hope they will be in 10 years, then I think people are going to look at All In as the day wrestling changed forever. If AEW doesn't succeed, they might look at it as the day the last great time wrestling tried to change forever.
Right.
But there is also that aspect of, I do believe that the business will feel the aftershocks of that for so long in the way that it has positively affected talent, the way that it's positively affected the men and women who are wrestling, because it really did show this large scale that's willing to embrace independent wrestling. As there's a great t-shirt over at prowrestlingtees.com/Blue Meanie that says wrestling exists outside of your television.
Which Mrs. Meanie designed.
Yes. But it's so true. And I don't think that wrestlers even appreciated how true that was until something like All In, where they're able to say like, holy crap, like if done right, people just, they're all about this. They want something different. They want to feel like they're a part of something again. So I really think, like you said, 2 years, we were all nostalgic about it, looking at it, and just, I'm looking back to 2 years ago. And part of it is, this Labor Day is the first Labor Day in 2 years that I've been home. And I think a lot of us can say that. And it's kind of, and thankfully you and I get to do, alternative commentary on Fight. So we can feel like we're kind of a part of this weekend, even though we're not there and we're not, a part of StarCast and all of that.
Doing something,
Yeah. But
doing the podcast is fun, but to actually, watch action and lend our opinions and stuff like that is, such a relief. And I'm glad there's like, an AEW for us to do this.
Yeah.
Stuff like that,
So great question there. James Sorensen wants to know, can we please get a Misfits in This World shirt? What is that referencing? Is that something you said?
I don't know.
I feel like that may have been something you said earlier in the show.
It
went over my head and under my radar. So let us know what that was all about. But if there's a demand for it,
more detail, please.
If you'll buy a shirt, chances are we'll make it. Jonathan Chambers says, you've both shown the Golden Girls much love in the past. Is there any other sitcoms you rate highly?
Oh, man.
Yes, there are. But
you know what? Like I said, we've been watching the Golden Girls. We finished that, and we've been watching the sequel, Golden Palace, which, I'm a big fan of RJ City, and he did. He kind of poo-pooed on it. Not really poo-pooed it, but I went into it not knowing what to expect, and it's actually a really funny show. So if you like the Golden Girls, watch Golden Palace.
Well, it didn't have B. Arthur, so
she does a run in.
But he checked out as soon as
I think that's where the his alliance goes with the B, because he's a huge B. Arthur mark, which is cool.
Do you remember her in History of the World Part 1?
Are you a bullshit artist? Oh, I'm a stand-up philosopher. Oh, so you're a bullshit artist. Have you bullshitted today? Did you bullshit next week, or do you plan?
So yeah, you do remember it.
Oh, it's a great fucking movie.
Oh, so good.
Mel Brooks pulled the ultimate rib on me because after it was called History of the World Volume 1.
Yep.
And I was still waiting for Volume 2 all these years later.
I'm still waiting.
Yeah, Hitler on ice. And they're showing Hitler.
The Inquisition. What?
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
But as far as shows, what are some other ones you hold? I have a couple off the top of my head that I can.
We got a couple where we got in the shoot that we're gonna like rewatch. There's shows I've watched and I've forgotten. I think the next show we've decided on is Night Court.
Okay.
Which Harry, can't think of his name, comedian magician, played the judge.
Yes.
Marsha Warfield, Marky Post, John Larroquette.
So there's a mini Night Court reunion in an episode of 30 Rock.
Really?
So definitely watch Night Court first, because then you'll really love when that pops up.
Oh, well, I think 30 Rock's going to be on our radar too. It's on our radar.
So I finished 30 Rock yesterday.
You've been doing a slow burn with that too, right?
Dude, one of the absolute funniest, most smartly written, which probably doesn't make me sound too smart when I say it like that. Intelligently written. I don't know. Smart comedy, ridiculous comedy at times. A lot of, there's the occasional breaking the fourth wall, which is just awesome.
I love that.
So that's one that I hold in very high regard. As far as what's that?
I always liked in Three's Company when Mr. Roper would hit Mrs. Roper with a zinger and break the fourth wall and look at the camera like, I did, and like he got one over on her.
But I mean, there's so many. It depends on as far as sitcoms. Like for me, there were when I was growing up. I loved Boy Meets World. Was an awesome one. I know you were, in your 30s, but I was a big waiting for the opportunity. So I was a big fan of that, and really anything in that time period. But Saved by the Bell. Can you hear my plumbing?
I heard something.
Yeah, it's my plumbing.
Who took a shit?
Probably me. I haven't checked. But wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great if I did and I left it and that was my wife flushing it? You would have heard her yelling from all the way upstairs.
We've all been there.
But no, for me, I was always a Friends fan. I always enjoyed Friends.
That was a big hit in the ECW locker room.
Yeah, I was told once. I found out about it because somebody told me that I reminded them of Chandler Bing, and I didn't know what a Chandler Bing was. I'm like, what? Like, I seriously, they're like, you remind me of Chandler Bing. Like, if you don't know that show, that's not a name to you.
No.
I was like, what the? I was like almost getting ready to fight. I'm like, what are you saying to me? But it was because, as Meanie Shirt will tell you, sarcasm is my superpower. I was incredibly sarcastic, and that was basically the yeah. So that, you know, that was
Dreamer and Beulah named their dog Chandler. That a pit bull, not pit bull, bulldog named Chandler. That they always brought on the road. Big noisy fuck. Yeah.
Anthony Camarada, hey man. B. Arthur is in the Star Wars holiday special. That's amazing. I did not know that. But yeah, any other sitcoms?
Go to YouTube, go to RJ City, and he does this thing. He does a lot of things on YouTube, but he has a thing called The Good, The Bad, The Unknown. Mm-hmm. And he does a thing on B. Arthur. And I think the bad was the Star Wars special. So,
but as far as like more modern day ones, I do have to say The Good Place was awesome. Trying to think what else.
Yeah. Oh. We need to finish that.
Or you haven't finished that yet. Yeah,
we haven't watched the last season. We got to finish the last season.
So good.
It is a great show.
Yeah. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
That's great. From the same people who did 30 Rock.
Yes, which has me so excited for Saved by the Bell, the reboot on Peacock.
Okay.
Is by the writers of 30 Rock.
Well, there you go.
And now I'm just like, so you're talking about taking my childhood, where if you go back and watch it, you go, this is one of the cheesiest freaking things I've ever seen. Doesn't really hold up all that well in some regards. And now you're going to relaunch it as a single camera comedy with the 30 Rock. Like I'm so pumped for that. But
it's kind of like how I was pumped that The Rock bought the XFL, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know what?
You're like, it has to be successful now.
Yes. And I'm so happy.
Not that Saved by the Bell wasn't successful, but like
it was for its time.
I like both XFLs.
Yeah.
And now that he's on board, I'm like, oh, it has no chance. It has no choice but to be successful. You know, if I can say that word.
So let's see what other. James also asks me. Well, he first asked me, Josh, how's the basement going? Well, we were supposed to start working on it on Monday, and then that got pushed to Wednesday, and then that got pushed to Monday, and I was like, can we make it Saturday? So as of now, I'm supposed to be starting, because I'm going to be working along with a friend of mine from high school working on it, and so we're supposed to start working on Saturday. So hopefully by the time you're hearing this on Monday, my basement, we've started working on it. We do have, I was showing Meanie earlier, that we do have the egress that was put in there, which they did in like a couple hours. So now we have stairs going to the outside, which is weird. But the basement, I'm looking at it now, is pretty empty at this point. I did very well, if I do say so myself, in clearing this thing out and consolidating my crap into different bins. But yeah, I am so excited for getting my studio at where I will basically be sitting in the exact same spot at the exact same desk that I'm sitting in right now. But it's going to be totally different because it's going to be an office/studio enclosed, and I'm not going to be able to look at the entire basement. But but it's coming along. He also asked if we were to see a Golden Girls today, who would you pick as the Golden Girls? I don't really have an answer for that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard.
What?
You could probably stop Betty White. I mean, she's still alive.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You know what I like that Golden Girls did? They would do flashback scenes,
mm-hmm.
and the mother, Estelle Getty's character, on the show they gave her prosthetics to look, make them look old, but in the flashbacks to like the 40s in Brooklyn, wherever they were, she's herself. And then her mom was played by B. Arthur. B. Arthur played Estelle Getty's mom back in the 40s or whatever.
This is
But
awesome.
they put a little bit of makeup on her to make her look.
That's so cool. I mean,
older.
I'm sure I saw it, and I don't remember that. That sounds so awesome.
And then the girl they had to play B. Arthur was awesome because she had B. Arthur's mannerisms and ma and all this stuff. And,
That's hilarious.
It's so well done. But yeah, it's a great question. I just don't know. I just don't know who could pull it off.
Yeah,
I don't know who you could get to pull it off.
It's also it would never be the same.
Yeah.
But James
Good question,
Swanson says
good
you guys made my birthday really, really great. Well,
Awesome.
you and everybody else who joined us here on Patreon made our night really, really great. Meanie and I went into this not 3 hours ago, not knowing what the hell to expect. And we say that every week, but man, I mean, it's always when you're doing these nighttime shows for us, like we're like, okay, we've had long days. We're kind of exhausted going into it. And I think if you stuck with us this whole way, there's some moments in this episode that were some of my favorite things we've ever talked about. This was a lot of fun. Meanie, what do you say we kind of wrap it up real briefly? I think it's time to go to bed. I do want to check in real quick on my ESPN app. Dude, we got 14:55 left on the clock on our second overtime.
God damn.
I'm sorry to the Flyers if they lose because we
if they win, this would be so fucking epic.
Yes.
Because I've seen them come back from worse. There was that Boston series; they were down 3-1, and then they work it all the way. They fight all the way back to a Game 7. Game 7, they get down 3-1, and then they go into the third period, and they come back from a 3-1. They were down in series 3-1. Then they were down 3-1 deficit in Game 7. And came back to fucking win it in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, come on. We're trying to sell some of those Flyer colors Philadelphia shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com/Blue Meanie.
Thanks to everybody.
I have
who bought
something
one,
in my
by
eye
the way.
that you all get to see me try and get this out. I got a
That's
little monster
a great
in my
content.
eye. Devin asks, Josh, have you plugged the Facebook group yet? Yes, we have. If you're Patreon, make sure you sign up. You go over and request to join our private Facebook group. As we wrap things up here, I do want to.
And thank you for sticking with us. Thank you.
Yeah, this was a fun show. We've got the show on Saturday coming up that if you're not on Patreon, you can still go and check that out, even though it's already happened. Go back and check that out on Fight TV, Alternative Commentary. I do want to just briefly plug our merch. I'm not even going to go into a whole long thing, but ProWrestlingTees.com/MindOfTheMeanie, /Blue Meanie, and /So Says Shernoff. You can get all these amazing shirts over there. Collar and Elbow brand, it's the wrestling brand. Go to collarandelbowbrand.com and use the promo code Meanie to save 10%.
Real quick.
Yeah.
If you're watching this on Patreon, and if you're listening Monday morning, you have until noon Central Time. They're having a Labor Day sale, 20% off all our merchandise. Use promo code Labor Day on ProWrestlingTees.com/Blue Meanie /MindOfTheMeanie /So Says Shernoff. Go over there and get some of those. If you're listening on Monday, it's you got a couple hours. If you're listening right now on Patreon, you have until Monday noon Central.
Yeah, go for it. It's never a bad thing to save some money when supporting your favorite podcast. So,
dude,
definitely do
Pro
that.
Wrestling Tees and Collar and Elbow have helped me get through these tough times here. So I'm internally grateful, and I'm internally grateful to our Pod Squad too, because they've been really supportive throughout this whole thing. Like, not working this long and not having, like, right off the bat, I lost like 13 to 14 bookings. And I had all that money, those funds, earmarked for certain things. And, being, trying to be smart, stashed emergency money, and shit, you burn through that.
Yeah.
But thank goodness for Pro Wrestling Tees. Thank goodness for Collar and Elbow. Thank goodness for our pod squad who have supported us through these hard times. I know it's hard times for you folks at home, going through what the world's going through right now. So, if I can, do a kumbaya moment, thank you all. No, I seriously.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I appreciate every one of you. So thank you.
Yeah. I second that completely. We really do appreciate it. And we appreciate you joining us here today. I think that's about it. I'm ready for bed.
Yeah, man.
And we've kept all of you here long enough. Hey, but before we go, make sure to follow us if you haven't on social media at Mind of the Meanie. And while you're at it, follow us as individuals. We love to be followed. Meanie can be found on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Blue Meanie, BWO. I'm at Sosa Shernoff on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Don't forget to visit mindofthemeanie.com. That has links to everything from Patreon to our merchandise of Pro Wrestling Tees. And you can follow our Twitter feed on there, and you can check out all of our old episodes in the archives over there. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for us, Meanie. Any parting words other than your other parting words?
No, I pretty much said it all. Thank you, everybody, for your love and support. Just see you if you're on Patreon. See you Saturday for alternative commentary. If this is Monday morning, good morning. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much. For the Blue Meanie, I'm Josh Shernoff. Join us again next Monday for another trip into the mind of the Meanie.
Blue World Order. The world of MLW radio never stops.